Not showing, not revealing. Not showing, not revealing. It was completely hidden within Long Fei's body, which others could not see through at all. The key was, this little guy was quite valiant. How strong was he? Long Fei didn't know either. Haha. Long Fei was secretly excited. Looking at the last Chun family guard, the corners of Long Fei's mouth curled into a disdainful sneer, and he said, "The feng shui cycle is changing. Now, I will give you two choices. One is to eat your own shit, and the other is to die." The captain of the guards was severely injured. His arm was in severe pain. Because of the pain, he couldn't use his strength. The guard captain stared at Long Fei and said, "Kid, do you know who I am?" Long Fei asked, "Does this old man care who you are?" The captain's eyes turned vicious as he looked at the mysterious jade that was not far behind him. Xian Yu was still trembling on the side. He was extremely afraid. Even when Long Fei had killed all of the lifeguard of Chen's family, she was still unable to recover from her fear. With an ashen face, she placed her hands on her chest, and her lips continuously trembled. Long Fei said lightly, "If you touch even a single strand of her hair, I will wring your head off." The power of the Nether Passage realm surged. He waved his right hand. A thick palm force was unleashed. The captain of the guards had a sinister look on his face. "If you can kill me, I will kill her as well. How about this? If you let me leave, I won't touch her." After saying that, the guard captain's injured arm fell to the ground. His body slightly leaned forward. His entire body was as tense as a leopard ready to pounce. Her eyes were determined. The eyes that seemed to be on the edge of life and death were either meant to kill or kill each other. Long Fei knew that this kind of person was like a wolf. Either he didn't bite, or else he would never let go once he bit. Other than this, although he had reached the 8th level of the ethereal opening realm, he did not have absolute confidence in dealing with the guard's bill. The guard captain's pupils contracted slightly as he stared at Long Fei. He retreated slightly, returning to the side of Xian Yu. Long Fei said lightly, "I only have one life. If I die, I will have nothing else." The corners of the captain's eyes twitched. He was struggling in his heart. If he failed the quest, he would die even if he went back. Why not? Long Fei was very concerned about Xian Yu's life. As long as he kept the profound jade tightly in his grasp, then Long Fei would have no choice but to submit to him. And at that time, malice arose in his heart. The guard captain's hand suddenly reached out and locked on his Xuan Yu's throat. In that instant, Long Fei said solemnly, "You're courting death." His figure disappeared, and he jumped into the air, his palm striking down towards the guard captain. Buddha palm technique. Boom! A golden palm fell from the sky. He was one of those people who wandered through the gates of hell, and it was unknown how many times he had experienced life and death situations. Facing the huge force of the palm, he immediately made a decision and pulled out a dagger, pointing it at his own hand. His arm fiercely slashed down. Crack! The injured arm was severed. The pain of losing an arm was extremely excruciating, but at the same time, it also caused the suppression from his body to disappear. He stared at Long Fei, who was in the air, and bellowed, "Kid, I'll remember you." Boom! His footsteps exploded, and he shot out like a sharp arrow. He instantly disappeared into the dark forest. In the moment between life and death, the guard captain used all his might to escape, adding his cultivation to the fact that he was much stronger than Long Fei. He disappeared in an instant. Long Fei retracted the energy in his palm and landed on the ground. Looking at the guard captain who had escaped, he did not chase after him. He did not know how many people lifeguard of Chen's family had sent. If he continued to chase her, he was worried that something might happen to her. Furthermore, Xian Yu was still in a state of panic, so he had to leave as soon as possible. Long Fei newly put on the torn clothes made from profound jade, lightly patted her back, and comforted her. It's okay now." The black jade suddenly hugged on a Long Fei tightly and started to bawl. Ooh. Tears welled up in his eyes. His body was pressed tightly against Long Fei. The two of them were not wearing much clothes in the first place, so at such a close distance, they suddenly stuck to each other. In that instant, Long Fei's body felt like it had been electrocuted. The worst part was, there was always a voice in Long Fei's mind. Daddy, hungry. Eating grandma. Father, hungry, eat grandma. The little child's stomach growled. He also looked at Long Fei with a dazed and moaning expression. Suddenly, the little child stopped crying. His eyes shone. Milk, milk, I want to drink milk. Long Fei's eyes froze, and a lump of flesh on the profound jade that was stuck to his chest. Immediately, Long Fei fiercely pushed away the profound jade and said, "Why are you crying? What are you afraid of? Master is here. Will I not protect you? Stop crying." He immediately became furious. The profound jade was instantly scared stiff by Long Fei. Suppressing her tears, she sobbed softly. I was almost. Isn't there none?" Long Fei stared at the black jade and said, "Don't be afraid. With me here, you don't have to be afraid of anything. Put on your clothes and quickly leave this place." The profound jade wiped away her tears, stood up, looked at Long Fei's furious face, and said, "Master, don't be angry. I won't be so useless in the future." Long Fei said arrogantly, "That's more like it." However, he was secretly complaining in his heart. Damn, just a little bit more. If they were to stick together like that, he would really worry that the little child would directly drink his milk, and the result would be Long Fei felt his scalp tingling just thinking about it. Sigh, if I didn't have this kid, then I could at least eat more tofu just now. Now that he's here, in the future, he will probably eat all of the tofu first. So bitter, Long Fei secretly complained. The little child became even more boisterous. "Milk, milk, I want to drink milk. Daddy, I'm hungry, I want to drink milk." He was crying really hard. Long Fei's heart also ached when he heard this. Looking at the profound jade's protruding chest, he asked a little embarrassedly, Do you have milk?" Xianyu was stunned. She lowered her head to look at her chest, and her cheeks flushed red. "I'm not married yet. How about milk?" "That's true." Long Fei was a little embarrassed. "Milk, milk, I want to drink milk. Eat milk, eat milk." His scalp went numb from the ruckus. Long Fei had no choice but to say in the end, "Other than drinking milk, can you eat anything else?" The little child replied, "No, I want to drink milk." Long Fei. Looking at the grilled meat, Long Fei took a bite and said, "Then what do we do? This is just a desolate place. Where can I get some milk for you?" The little kid said, "I don't care, I just want to eat grandma." "Air, what's this?" Suddenly, Long Fei felt that the piece of roasted meat in his hand suddenly disappeared, and the little kid took a big bite, directly chewing and eating it a few times. Then the two started glowing and said, "Delicious, delicious." Without waiting for Long Fei's consent, all that was left of the roasted meat in his hand was a bare bone. Long Fei said bitterly, "Another glutton. More, more, more. I want more." A baby-sized baby doll should have eaten even more than Long Fei. He ate half of a wild boar. Moreover, his stomach was not big at all. It was as if he hadn't eaten anything. Long Fei said depressingly, "In the end, how did you change it?" The little child said in all seriousness, "You changed me." Dad, your roasted meat is really not bad, deceiving quite a few girls, right?" The little child looked at Xianyu and snickered. "Your eyesight isn't bad." Long Fei glared at him, "Eat your flesh." The child chewed on the barbecue and muttered, "It means that his aptitude has yet to reach the divine level." His mouth was filled with meat, and his speech was unclear. Long Fei did not listen seriously either. Long Fei sensed the situation slightly and released the beast. A few minutes later, he said, "This area is very safe. There are no Imperial guards chasing after us. They have been running for 3 days and 3 nights in a row, and also changed the direction of the Xin Pavilion. With their speed, it would not be difficult for them to chase him. In this case, the lifeguard of Qin's family was chasing them in the wrong direction." Xianyu nodded and said, "If Master didn't have you, I wouldn't even know what to do. Once I get to Xin Pavilion, I'll get my aunt to give you whatever you want." Long Fei waved his hand. "I didn't save you to get what I want. Actually, Long Fei had already obtained something powerful enough. He already had a son. What else do you want?" Right now, He was afraid that Xianyu would ask him to return the jade pendant to her, so he really didn't know how to take it out. Long Fei continued. Besides, I'm your master. Aren't I supposed to protect you? He knew that Xianyu was clear that he was not a master, but she did not reveal anything. This was better, and it would not be that awkward. On the other hand, ever since her clothes had been torn by the guard captain last time, she had left quite a scar in her heart, and she became even more dependent on Long Fei. Xianyu looked at Long Fei and leaned towards his side. At this moment, the child immediately became excited. Grandma, Grandma. Long Fei's expression changed as he immediately maintained a certain distance from Xianyu and said, Rest well, I'll look around. Then he walked into the woods. Xianyu looked at the back of Long Fei's figure as she walked far away, her small mouth lightly pouting as she muttered, Are you a man or not? As Long Fei walked into the darkness, the profound jade once again let out a giggle. She felt more at ease. Long Fei entered the forest and immediately said, Come out. The little child, Daddy, are you calling me? Yes, it's you. I have something to discuss with you. Long Fei was very depressed, although he did not want to have any random love encounters in this different world. But if there were physical needs that could be solved, shouldn't they be solved? Furthermore, the black jade was a top-quality item. He could clearly feel that Xianyu wanted to throw herself into his arms several times, but at the most critical moment, his son would start screaming for milk. This made him very depressed. The little child's form moved and directly landed in front of Long Fei. Only Long Fei himself could see that it was about the size of a ginseng child. Father, what orders do you have? The little child looked at Long Fei with a serious expression. Long Fei did not dawdle and directly said, If you call me father, then I will also recognize you as my son. But for fathers to fathers and sons to sons, there are some things that should be made clear. The child said, Father, please speak. 1. When I'm picking up girls, when girls are going to throw themselves at me, you can't say anything. You can't touch girls' bodies. You can only sleep. You can't see. You can't hear. Do you understand? The child nodded and said, I've remembered it. Where's the second one? Long Fei said, The second one. Remember the first one. The third one. Remember the first one. This was only the beginning. If a little child asked the big-breasted girl for milk, what would Long Fei do? The child nodded and said, Father, I'll remember it. Very obedient. Long Fei was satisfied. Very good. Now tell me what you remembered. The child said, When father is picking up girls, I want to pretend to be blind, deaf, and stupid. Anyway, I can't ruin father's good fortune. While speaking, his eyes became pitiful again, as if he was about to be abandoned by Long Fei. Long Fei was startled. Seeing his pitiful look, she pained again. All right, pretend I didn't say anything. Seeing your pitiful look, those who don't know it would think I was going to throw you into an orphanage. He sighed in his heart. He had been defeated by the little child. Long live Daddy. Daddy is the best. From a pitiful child to a happy little sparrow, he was extremely happy. Seeing his happy look, Long Fei could only give up. Father, don't worry. If I meet Mother, I will create conditions for you. The woman by your side is not bad, but she isn't good enough for you. At most, she can only be your bedmaid. A princess of a country can only be a warm bedmaid. Moreover, Xianyu's cultivation wasn't high, but his talent and potential was extremely high, just a little bit away from reaching the divine level. From the first moment the little child saw her, he already knew, but he still didn't think much of it. How high was his sight? Long Fei didn't know what the little child was thinking. She gently patted his head and said, All right, go back and rest. And the child replied, Father, I don't have a name yet. That's right. Only now did Long Fei remember, and said, What name do you want? The little child said, Whatever father gives me, I want to like it. If father really cannot remember, then I can recommend myself. For example, the Dragon Emperor, the Dragon Ancestors, or even Boss Long. Long Fei glared. I think your name is Long Xiang. The little kid immediately shrunk back and giggled. Long Xiang, this word, I like it. My name is Long Xiang. Long Fei was stunned. Seeing the little kid's expression that he liked, he immediately said, That's not a good name. I'm Long Fei. You're Long Xiang. Those of us who don't know each other would think that we're brothers. Your name is Long Lu. Dragon descent? The child chanted. Long Fei continued. I even gave you a nickname. The child asked, what's his name? Long Fei said, Neza. His appearance was very similar to Neza in the cartoons, and he also used a spear. Adding his super strength, the name Neza was very suitable for him. Most importantly, Neza was also the incarnation of a lotus flower. The little kid was also evolved from a lotus jade pendant. Neza, Neza, the little child muttered to himself. I like the name Neza. 3 months. 3 months. Ever since he changed his route, Long Fei had not been chased by the lifeguard of Chen's family. The journey could be said to be a sightseeing trip, and it was a very enjoyable one. Xianyu also walked out from the shadows, talking and laughing along the way, just like a happy little butterfly. Period. Long Fei encountered very few demon beasts. He started to doubt whether there were any demon beasts in this plane. He had only met 2 demon beasts a whole 3 months ago, and the highest ranked one was still the secondary demon beast. Until now, Long Fei's body had also been at the 2nd level as well. This kind of body wasn't even able to withstand the power of a Nether Passage Realm Martial practitioner. There was no other way. There was simply no way to find a stronger demon beast to hunt. However, there were quite a few wild beasts, and they basically never stopped hunting along the way. They basically served Xianyu and Neza's stomachs, and the 2 of them were like 2 super big stomach kings, always eating and not getting fat at all. Long Fei was extremely depressed, becoming their slave along the way. However, the bitter days were finally coming to an end. Long Fei stood on top of the mountain and looked at the city far away, saying, ahead should be the Xian City. After the Xian City is the Xian Pavilion. You are about to arrive. A look of pleasant surprise flashed past Xianyu's eyes, but soon after, she became a little lonely and said, Master, why don't you follow me to the Xian Pavilion as well? Long Fei said, I would like to go, but with my strength, even with my talent, I will not be able to enter. In this plane, the Xian Pavilion and the Divine Sect were the 2 strongest sections. The disciples inside were all extremely talented geniuses. In addition to having a talent, they also needed someone to recommend them. If there wasn't an elder-level person to recommend them, then no matter how high their talent was, they might not be able to enter. Then again, Long Fei still had mission. His purpose in coming here was to look for the 7-flame flower, and only when he found it would the dimension door open up, allowing him to return to the Hall of Eternal Life and be able to train his super strong alchemy technique with the Hall Master. It was only from the Hall of Eternal Life's dimension door that he could return to the universal realm. To the current plane, he was just a passerby. Xianyu said, My aunt is an elder of the Xian Pavilion. If she recommends you, you can definitely go in. Long Fei waved his hand. Forget it. Don't make things difficult for your aunt. The black jade pulled at the corner of Long Fei's clothes and said, Master, just promise me. Just come with me to Xian Pavilion. Come on, just promise me. She was always acting like a spoiled child. This was Long Fei's fatal weakness, and he said, All right, I'll try my best. He thought to himself, maybe the 7-flame flower is in the Xian Pavilion. Enter the city, enter the city, enter the city. Father, enter the city and eat delicious food. Neza screamed nonstop, and saliva dripped from his mouth. Long Fei shook his head and laughed bitterly. I admire you, you glutton. Not long later, the 2 of them walked towards the Xian City. The city was magnificent, with unfathomable mystical arts within. Long Fei glanced at the city gate. Neza immediately said, There's a profound formation. Long Fei said, You know about it again? Neza said, Of course, I can tell at a glance what is good or bad. For example, if you look at the city guards on both sides of the moat, they also have a little bit of Xian energy on them. Profound strength. The cultivation strength of the disciples of Xian Pavilion. It was a sublimated version of the spiritual energy. A mere city guard could have profound strength? So awesome? Long Fei had some understanding of this world. He did not believe that these ordinary guards had profound strength. Neza didn't explain any further. He felt like he was returning home and wanted nothing more than to charge into the city and eat him for 3 days and 3 nights. Long Fei also followed his urging and quickly entered the Xian city. Long Fei was secretly surprised when he entered the city. He could be considered someone who had seen the world. What large city or great sect hadn't he seen? But the feeling the Xian city gave him was completely different. Walking into the Xian city felt like walking into a huge, profound art mechanism. Every step was different. It was like falling into a trap if one took a wrong step. Also, it was the same for the people on the streets. Each of them wore a different set of clothes. Just like the top quality armor in the game, a certain person exuded a strong power. Seeing Long Fei's shocked expression, Xianyu laughed. Xian City is very powerful, right? This place is known as the #1 city in the world. Even the sacred city of the celestial sect cannot reach it. I heard Aunt say that besides being a city, Xian City was also the great protective formation for the Xian Pavilion. However, in the past thousands of years, no one else had been able to activate the formation, and even less had been able to break it. Xianyu was extremely excited as she spoke. It was exactly as she said. The Xian city was filled with endless mysteries. It was just the word Xian. However, Neza coldly snorted, "Tisk." Long Fei said slightly, "This is the first time I've heard of a profound formation." At this moment, Xianyu looked into the distance and immediately revealed a smile, saying, "Master, my senior brother is here. It seems like Aunt already knew that I was coming." 4 young geniuses, dressed in gorgeous, profound clothing, with profound crowns on their heads, released their profound energy with a single cry, which caused countless people on both sides of the street to raise their eyebrows, all of them revealing expressions of envy. Disciple of the Xian Pavilion. Who is this person? Fuck, you don't even know him? Are you from a countryside? The entire Xian city. In fact, an entire continent. Who doesn't know his name? Xian Pavilion's #1 disciple, reputed to be the world's #1 profound child, and his own name is named after the word profound sky. He's Xian Tian. So handsome, so amazing, it's good enough that you can marry him. Countless street girls were screaming. Xian Tian didn't even spare him a glance as he continued staring at the profound jade in the distance. His eyes were blazing. Only when he saw Long Fei, who was beside Xianyu, his eyebrows lightly knitted together as he gave a short glance. With just a glance, the corners of his lips curled up slightly, and he completely ignored Long Fei. Xian Tian ignored Long Fei, but the 2 Xian Pavilion disciples by his side did not, so he moved even faster towards Long Fei's side. Xianyu revealed a smile and said, "Senior brother." Xian Tian was modest and polite, like a gentleman. He gently said, "Junior sister, thank you for your hard work along the way." Xianyu replied, "It's not hard. It's not hard at all. Senior brother, let me explain this is..." Without waiting for her to make an introduction, Xian Tian directly interrupted her. "I've been very worried about you along the way. Even Uncle Master and the rest of the elders are worried." He simply did not want to get to know Long Fei. To him, there was no need at all to get to know Long Fei. It was also at this time, Long Fei said, "You are already safe. It's time for me to leave and busy myself with my own matters." After he finished speaking, Long Fei turned around and was about to leave. It was also at this time. The 2 disciples immediately blocked Long Fei's path. Xian Tian's eyes flashed as he sneered. "Leave? I didn't agree. Where are you going?" Long Fei turned around to look at Xian Tian and asked, "What do you mean?" Xian Tian disdainfully replied, "The meaning is very simple. Come with me." As soon as he finished, the 2 disciples immediately pressed down on Long Fei's shoulders. Long Fei said in a faint voice, "And if I don't agree?" Xian Tian sneered, "Do you think you have a choice? Trash at the Nether Passage realm." Long Fei was very unhappy to hear the word trash. He was annoyed, but Neza was even more annoyed. "You call my dad trash. Are you ready to die?" The word trash displeased Long Fei. The word trash displeased Long Fei. The most annoying word. Neza was even more unhappy. You're calling my dad trash? Let's see who is the trash. As soon as he finished, the power in Long Fei's body surged. Boom! A surge of power rumbled through the skies. The number one genius of Xian Pavilion. His strength was extraordinary. His talent was supernatural. He was a dragon among men, a favored son of heaven, the shining star of Xian Pavilion. But, in that split second, he retreated with explosive speed, both eyes popping out. His body caved in as he frantically retreated. He even let out a series of pig-slaughtering howls. Everyone looked at him. Countless people were stunned on the spot. Hey, what's wrong? Isn't that the youngest genius of Xian Pavilion, Xian Tian? Why was it suddenly sent flying backwards? Who is it? Who's so strong? That's Mysterious Sky, the strongest genius among the young generation of Xian Pavilion. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Many people rubbed their eyes, staring at Xian Tian, who was still flying backwards. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. This was all too unreal. Xian Yu was also stunned on the spot. What's going on with senior brother Xian Tian? Bam! He crashed into a wall 300 meters away. His body sank and the wall cracked. Both of Xian Tian's eyes were burning. He straightened his body and dashed out of the wall. With a flick of his hands, he sent out a series of punches. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions resounded in the air. The profound energy around him swirled like a vortex. The crowd was in an uproar again. What a strong, profound strength. Senior brother is truly worthy of being called the senior brother of the profound sky continent. The power that erupted is too fierce. Haha, it's about to explode. The number one genius of the Xian Pavilion is about to explode. Everyone was waiting for the eruption of the Mysterious Sky sect. The entire Xian city knew the true strength of the number one genius. Sent flying just like that? Completely unacceptable. It was impossible. It was just that. When everyone was waiting for Xian Tian to explode and beat Long Fei to a pulp. TCH, Neza coldly sneered, looking down on him. Ugh, walala. Xian Tian's face was pale, and his stomach churned. Then he violently vomited. A sour and smelly liquid shot out from his throat like a fountain. His entire body fell to his knees in an instant as he vomited. Ugh, ugh. Number one genius? The brightest star? To be the focus of tens of thousands of people? Right now, he was like a pile of mud, unable to even stand up. If they had been ambushed just now, no one would have been able to accept that. Then, right now, everyone's hearts were filled with doubts. Is he really the number one genius of Xian Pavilion? Is he really Xian Tian? Isn't this too weak? Damn, I'm blind. How could I worship such a person? Long Fei secretly thought and said, Neza, is this because of you? There was a question in his voice. Neza stubbornly said, it was him who called Daddy trash. Long Fei was secretly pleased. Having such a superb son was truly an explosion of luck, but kids still have to set up the sunshine, the idea. Long Fei said indifferently, if anything happens, Father will help out. If something like this happens in the future, just beat him to the ground and he won't be able to get up. Neza. He nodded obediently and replied, yes. Long Fei smiled with satisfaction and said, that's more like it. And then the corner of Long Fei's mouth curled up, and he couldn't help but ask while looking at the distant Xian Tian, who was violently puking. So this is the number one genius of the Xian Pavilion? The number one trash should be about right. No one saw Long Fei make a move. No one knew why Xian Tian was like this. Many people were stupefied. The Xian Pavilion disciple holding on a Long Fei's arm shouted, you dare insult senior brother? You dog, I think you're tired of living. As soon as he finished, he was about to attack Long Fei. However, boom, boom, with two unfathomable collisions of power, the two disciples were directly sent flying into the air before freely falling to the ground, falling onto the ground, and not moving at all. Long Fei thought in his heart, well done. Neza giggled and said, Daddy, I'll help you beat up 3 people. Their weights are 146, 137, and 150 pounds respectively. These are converted into roasted meat. Long Fei. Neza giggled. Then it's decided. Profound Jade looked at the two unconscious people on the ground, then looked at the distant Xian Tian who was still violently vomiting, and said, Master, it's... Long Fei shrugged and said, I didn't do anything. Xianyu was not stupid. Just now, Xian Tian had to defend Long Fei as he held her captive. Facing the humiliation Xian Tian predicted, he was also extremely displeased. However, without waiting for her to do anything, the three of them fell to the ground. Master is indeed master, Xianyu secretly thought. At this moment, clap, 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 good inner force. Quietly, strength comes from the heart. Heart moving, strength moving. Inner strength is as strong as a mountain. No wonder it could create a huge crater of 30 meters in length with a single palm. Powerful, truly powerful. Amongst the crowd, an old man in a robe stroked his back. He had a faint smile on his face. His eyes were like an eagle's, staring straight at Long Fei. He slowly walked out. His eyes were sharp. His temples swelled up. He was definitely an expert, and it was that kind of inner strength expert. The streets were crowded on both sides, and because Xian Tian had appeared, Long Fei's surroundings were even more crowded. However, the elder walked out from the crowd without any obstruction. The people around him were pushed aside without even knowing it. As he took a step forward, the ground slightly shook and sand and gravel started to jump. The air was filled with a vigorous aura. Pressure, an inexplicable pressure. The old man's aura of strength was completely different from the aura from Xian Tian. One could tell with a single glance that he was not from the same sect. Long Fei immediately placed the profound jade behind him and said with a faint sound, Hide behind me. Xianyu also realized that the old man's strength was very strong, so she listened obediently. At this moment, Xian Tian stopped vomiting, his eyes malevolent. With a loud roar, all of the profound energy in his body exploded forth, and his body shot straight towards Long Fei like a rocket. However, without waiting for him to get close to Long Fei, the old man moved his right hand slightly. A whirlpool of energy appeared under his palm, and he pushed. Boom! He was sent flying and crashed to the ground, unconscious. The #1 genius of Xian Pavilion? It should be the #1 tragedy of Xian Pavilion. The old man gave a light push with his palm, and didn't even look at Xian Tian, but looked at Long Fei instead, and smiled faintly. Little brother, as long as you hand over the girl behind you, nothing will happen to you. A simple sentence. However, each word was laced with a thick killing intent. Long Fei's mouth hooked up and said, What if I don't hand it over? The elder smiled faintly and said, If you don't hand it over, this old man will make his move. The old man said indifferently. The old man said indifferently. The power of his body formed a vortex, and the robe beneath his feet fluttered without wind. In an instant, the audience around him was forced back a few meters. He clenched his fists. Roar, roar. The two demon beasts bellowed. The old man's sleeves moved up, and his muscles expanded. If his clothes were torn, then his body would definitely look like a monster. With such a dense and pure energy, Long Fei thought of Li Yuanba. However, the old man in front of him was a bit more powerful. A single punch could either kill or cripple him. It was incomparably dangerous. The old man said, Little brother, I don't want to become enemies with you. Hand her over, and you and I will both be good. Long Fei said, If you want to fight, then hurry up. The corners of the old man's eyes narrowed. In that instant, the power of lightning suddenly moved. Boom! The ground beneath his feet caved in, and a deep footprint appeared. Two fists flew out. Before the fist arrived, the strong wind arrived first. After smashing his way in front of Long Fei, his long hair flew horizontally and his buns scattered. As if he had been slashed by a blade, Long Fei's body became a little unsteady, and he slowly slid backwards. Lei Gang from the Divine Sect. Innate semi-god body. He doesn't cultivate god power, nor does he cultivate profound strength. He specializes in the body, so his body should be at the peak of the demon body, right? Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to release such a rich inner strength. The divine sect actually sent out an expert like Lei Gang. It seems that the vice sect master of the divine sect is really concerned about that thing. How can I not be concerned? That thing is an ancient spiritual treasure. Who wouldn't care? But over 300 Xianzes were all killed, and only this single seedling remains in the entire imperial city. Whether she had that thing on her body or not might be hard to say. I'm afraid only she knows. How many moves do you think this kid can take? 3 moves at most. I bet 5 moves. Let's bet on a jar of top-grade dragon's saliva. It takes 300 years to brew a pod, and I only finished it last month. You already know that? Ha ha ha, it's a bet. Ha ha. Senior brother Chun, you're just waiting to give me the dragon saliva. Ha ha. You brew wine, and I'll drink it. Not far away. On the roof of a tavern, 2 middle-aged men dressed in white watched Long Fei as he conversed on the street. Elder Xian Pavilion. Not many people knew of their existence. At this time, many people's gazes were fixated on Long Fei and simply did not pay attention to the few people on the roof. The strong wind raged. Long Fei slid backwards, but his eyes didn't flash with a concrete look. In fact, they were filled with anticipation because the old man in front of him had a very high cultivation base. Very high. It was so high that Long Fei couldn't even find it using the system. The system can only check the same level. The old man was in a realm that was way beyond Long Fei's. He was able to see a blood groove in his life. What was the quantity? He couldn't see any levels at all. And it was also because of this that Long Fei's eyes burned with passion, and he said to himself, Neza, knock him out. Neza grinned and said, Daddy, this old man is pretty strong. If I want to do it, you have to pay double the price. Okay. Long Fei immediately agreed. Not to mention double the amount of roasted meat. Even if it was 10 times more, he would still agree. As long as he could defeat the old man, he would be able to obtain Lei Gang's cultivation realm. Receive my punch. Lei Gang's sword-like eyebrows fiercely slanted as the thick energy around his body poured into his fist and smashed down onto Long Fei's chest. Neza's eyes moved. He also threw a punch at the same time. Bam! Long Fei raised his right fist and poured his son's power into it. Boom! The 2 fists collided. Long Fei's fist was in pain. His level 2 body was unable to take it anymore. His entire right arm was as though it was crippled, and his body also exploded as he retreated a few steps. However, Long Fei still firmly protected the profound jade behind his back. However, Lei Gang was forced 10 steps back, and his face was flushed red. The punch just now had numbed his arm. Not only his fist, his entire body was trembling in discomfort. What a formidable strength. Again, 8 unity. Lei Gang roared out. All 8 of his acupoints suddenly released a buzzing sound, as though they were opening a floodgate. Power gathered. It instantly froze. He held it in his hand like it was real. He had only used half of his power just now, but this time he was using the upper body technique and the 8 trigrams power. The faces of the 2 elders from the Xian Pavilion trembled. Isn't that a little too much? Directly use this power? Then he's trying to blast this brat to death. AI, there are only 2 moves left in 3 moves. This 8 fusions technique is about to send this brat to the heavens. Should we come forward? Senior brother Chun, you can't do that. If you make a move, you will lose, and I will drink your dragon saliva. Do you only know how to drink and forget about the mission given to us by the sect leader? What if that thing is with this kid? Their gazes turned cold. At this moment, Lei Gang's 8 stages of power had already been unleashed. Violent winds raged, and sand and rocks flew everywhere. It was as if the entire scene was in the eye of hurricane. The power of the 8 trigrams was too strong. Long Fei swallowed and said, Can it work? If that's not possible, then let's endure for now. A little worried. After these few months of being in contact with Neza, Long Fei had truly treated Neza as his own child. Whenever Neza wanted meat, he would find a way to get it. Facing such a powerful force, Long Fei was also a little worried in his heart. Neza giggled and said, Daddy, Don't worry, I'm very strong. As soon as he finished, Nez's two small eyes suddenly became angry, and he snorted softly. Turn around. Long Fei's body immediately floated into the air. His body also swelled up. Lei Gang's fist came down, 8 harmonies. Neza also shouted, I'll send you flying. Rumble. His fist suddenly exploded as he met the other fist head-on. The two fists collided. Lei Gang instantly flew out from the tornado of power. Long Fei stood in place without moving an inch. However, Neza's stomach growled, Daddy, hungry, hungry, very hungry, I want to eat Grandma, I want to eat Grandma. His stomach was growling crazily. Furthermore, he felt extremely hungry, and he couldn't even muster up a bit of energy. Neza was like a deflated balloon. Long Fei also felt his heart ache, and said, I'll find you something to eat later. After all, Neza was just a little kid. To be able to send Lei Gang, this kind of super powerhouse, flying was already a power that defied the heavens. Many people did not know that the old man was divine sex Lei Gang, but they could see that the old man's strength was exceptionally ferocious. To be unable to deal with Long Fei just like that, how strong was he? Just when everyone was shocked, a roar came from afar. 10. The sky shook and the world started to shake. 10. In the blink of an eye, the color of the sky changed. The ground trembled, and people were unable to stand steadily. The rubble on both sides of the street began to fall down crazily. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of extremely powerful energy attacked from afar with incomparable ferocity. At this moment, the power exploded in an instant. With Long Fei as the center, it formed a circle with all of its power locking on a Long Fei. It was the same in the sky. The combination of the heaven and earth, every combination of energy was being condensed. Half of Xian City was in a state of shock. Long Fei stood in place. This time, he was immobile, not because he was immobile, but because he could not move at all. He couldn't move. His strength was too strong. Not only Long Fei, the people on both sides of the street were the same as well. Long Fei stopped calling him Neza. Staring at a certain spot with both eyes, he exerted a little strength in his hands. The veins on his body bulged as he said in a deep voice, Come. Lei Gang roared. The joint force went berserk all the way, causing the ground to crack. It's really the joint force. Damn, is this Lei Gang crazy? What does he want to do? Does he want to destroy Xian City? No, we can't afford the consequences if we don't act now. If this power completely exploded, at least half of the Xian City would be destroyed. Countless casualties. This was not something that the two Xian Pavilion elders could bear. The two elders glanced at each other and immediately jumped out. However, they were a little too careless and were too slow. Lei Gang was an expert from the divine sect, and furthermore, he was a super powerhouse in physical techniques. He had never used the joint force in public before. He would never use it unless he had no other choice. However, 2 consecutive punches were blocked by Long Fei, and he was even at a disadvantage. He had never met anyone stronger than him in body techniques, and that person was a young lad at that. Fall! Lei Gang roared as he detonated joint force with a single punch. Crap! The joint force is too fast. It's detonated. It's over. It's all over. The two elders' expressions changed. They never thought that the joint force would be strong to this extent, completely exceeding their control. With a heavy sound, they shouted, Lei Gang, stop right there. Lei Gang, this is the Xian City. We can't allow you to mess around. Stop. Stop right there. However, the two of them could not stop calling out the Lei Gang, who had already turned red. Lei Gang did not pay any attention to him. He looked at Long Fei and said, Block again. The punch landed heavily. The power of the heaven and earth was rampaging through the void. The two elders' faces became pale. We're finished. The Xian City is going to be destroyed. At this moment, Long Fei was using all of his strength. The joint force was tightly binding him, causing him to be unable to move. However, he was still clenching his teeth and unleashing his strength, releasing a roar. It was also at this time, Neza, who was originally like a deflated balloon, slightly moved. he suddenly stood up and took out his red-tasseled spear, staring at Lei Gang, and said, "Break!" The red tassel flashed. A spear thrust out. In the air, Lei Gang suddenly screamed in pain. Ah! He gathered all of the strength in his body, and his entire body fell from the sky. The right arm was completely dislocated. The spear pierced into his bone marrow, and at the moment he landed, he spasmed. Ah! Lei Gang screamed in pain, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. The joint force dissipated. The violent movements in the sky and earth disappeared. The power within a radius of several hundred meters disappeared. The pedestrians on both sides of the street also regained their freedom. Their expressions changed slightly. What just happened? Why do I feel like time has suddenly jumped over here? What was that just now? Two elders of the Xian Pavilion descended, blocking in front of Long Fei. Staring at Lei Gang, they said loudly, "Lei Gang, you want to declare war on the Xian Pavilion?" Lei Gang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He looked at the two Xian Pavilion elders and said, "I was reckless." F***CK. Long Fei bellowed, "Is apologizing enough?" Neza was already out of strength. He laid on the ground weakly. Long Fei was extremely confused. He only apologized, and everything was over. Long Fei madly rushed forward, grabbed Lei Gang by the collar, and ruthlessly smashed down with his fist. Lei Gang smashed onto the ground, looked at Long Fei, and was a little astonished, and said, "This is not your strength." The moment he was grabbed by Long Fei, he thought that he was going to die, but when Long Fei's fist landed on his body, it didn't hurt at all. Long Fei also saw it very clearly. Miss. It didn't deal any damage. This fellow's body defense was higher than Long Fei's attack damage. Long Fei punched him again. Miss. It was the same as before. He couldn't deal any damage at all. Long Fei was very angry. Lei Gang said, "Use your true strength to be able to die in your hands. I will not have any regrets in my life." He was very calm. Only he knew how powerful the joint force was. Even the peak stage powerhouse would find it hard to resist it, but not only did Long Fei block it, he also blocked his joint force. In his heart, Lei Gang was also rather grateful to Long Fei. If not for Long Fei's slay, he might have brought the divine sect into this war. After all, Xian City was a subordinate land of the Xian Pavilion. If he destroyed this place, the Xian Pavilion would definitely not let it go so easily. Long Fei stared at Lei Gang in anger. He did not care whether he was hit or not, and continued to attack. Seeing Lei Gang apologizing sincerely, the two Xian Pavilion elders did not want to give him too much face. They immediately pulled Long Fei up and said, "Forget it, forget it, forget it." Long Fei fiercely kicked a few times. Looking at the slouching Neza, Long Fei didn't dare to stay any longer. He looked at a tavern not far away and charged straight in. No one knew what he was going to do. The two Xian Pavilion clan elders were stunned. He couldn't have gone to get the kitchen knife, right? Kitchen knives are useless. A normal blade would not even be able to cut Lei Gang's skin. Lei Gang was also stunned. After running into the kitchen, Long Fei did not care about the shocked expressions of the people and said, "There will be food soon. There will be food soon. Everything will be ready soon." Dang, 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 dang. Dang, 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 dang. Long Fei's hands were as fast as lightning as he crazily sliced his way through the flesh. He chopped the meat into minced meat and added a soup into the boiling water. With some salt added, the meatball soup was finished. "Neza, quick, come eat. Neza laid there softly, not wanting to move at all. "Grandma, Grandma, I want to eat, Grandma. Milk." Long Fei's gaze swept across them, and the few old ladies in the kitchen did not have any milk at all. He once again rushed out, looked at Xianyu, who was not far away, and said, "Do you want her milk?" "Neza, grandmother, grandmother." Just when Long Fei wanted to rush to Xianyu's side, suddenly, a man wearing a black robe descended. A black barbarian dragon was embroidered on his black robe. The expression in the eyes of the two Xian Pavilion elders darkened. The vice sect master of the celestial sect. "See, The saving of the script, again at the end of the year, writing time, is uncertain. Update time will also be uncertain, sorry. The number of updates would not be low. There would be an update at the end of the month. The Vice Sect Master of the Divine Sect. The Vice Sect Master of the Divine Sect. Yi Shiluo, one of the 5 great powerhouse S of the Divine Sect, was also one of the 10 great powerhouse S of this plane. His sudden appearance made the entire Xian city quiet down. It was as if time had stopped spinning. Yi Shiluo stood behind Xian Yu, his eyes carrying a faint glimmer, took a glance, then looked at the 2 elders from the Xian Pavilion, and said indifferently, "She is a descendant of my divine sect, Xian clan's disciple. Xian's has been massacred, and I brought her back to the divine sect. Do you have any objections?" His voice was filled with an intimidating aura. The 2 elders from the Xian Pavilion were simply speechless. It was very uncomfortable. Even if they had any objections, they couldn't say it out loud. It was as if the 2 of them had lost their voices. Yi Shiluo smiled slightly and said, "Since there is no objection, then I will bring her and leave." Finished. Yi Shiluo grabbed the profound jade shoulder and was about to fly away. "I have an objection." A sudden sound broke the silence. Long Fei shouted and walked over with big strides. Yi Shiluo squinted and looked at Long Fei. Interesting. His pressure could crush everyone in Xian City, and Long Fei was also under his pressure, but it was as if Long Fei was not under his pressure, as though there was no restriction at all. Even the Xian Pavilion elders were crushed speechless. How could Long Fei make a sound? When Xian Yu saw Long Fei walking out, she immediately said, "Master, save me. I don't want to go to the divine sect with him. I don't want to." Yi Shiluo looked at Long Fei and said indifferently, "Do you have any objections?" Long Fei said, "I am her master, and her business is my business. Didn't you hear that she did not want to go with you?" Yi Shiluo asked, "Master, Xian's." Long Fei said, "That's right." Yi Shiluo looked at Long Fei with eyes filled with contempt and said, "A mere ethereal opening trash dares to call himself a Xian's? Since you are a master, let's see just how strong you are." As soon as he finished, boom! With a move of the black robe, Yi Shiluo's figure charged out arrogantly like a dragon. Ferocious, crazy, fierce. These 3 words represented Yi Shiluo's power. His power was completely different from Lei Gang's. His power was filled with the divine power that the divine sect cultivated. Incomparable savagery. With a thought, he charged forward and pierced through the air. In the void, with one hand, he grabbed towards Long Fei's throat. "Master, be careful," Xian Yu suddenly shouted. The eyes of the 2 elders from Xian Pavilion also contracted fiercely. They wanted to make a sound, but nothing came out. Lei Gang's eyes also darkened, a little regretfully. He knew that Long Fei was going to die. Yi Shiluo would either not make a move, or else he would become an Azura, trying to take his life, an existence that would not show any mercy. He really wanted to plead for Long Fei, but it was useless. There was no one alive that Yi Shiluo wanted to kill. The space in front of Long Fei started to distort, and a hand stretched out as if from hell, locking Long Fei's throat. "Father, I..." Sensing Long Fei's danger, Neza stood up desperately. Long Fei said, "I will take this attack. Rest well." His son had already collapsed. If he were to continue carrying him, he might really... Long Fei would never. He finally had a son. It was one thing if he couldn't protect him, but how could he let him get injured? His eyes turned vicious. Long Fei looked at the distorted space. His body slightly sank and tensed up. He clenched his fists and roared out in his heart, "Come, come." Bam! He shot out like a sharp arrow. "Come!" With a roar, his arms were like cannons as they shot out towards the distorted space. "You're courting death." Space split apart as his hand stabbed out. Yi Shiluo did not wait for Long Fei's attack to come down as he grabbed Long Fei's throat. Rumble! He pressed down hard. An extremely powerful shockwave exploded, and lines of energy patterns surged out from his palms. A powerful shockwave burst out. Bam! Long Fei's entire body was pressed against the ground. Kacha, kacha, kacha. The ground quickly caved in, and a large number of cracks appeared. Long Fei's body caved in, and he violently spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. It was as if his throat had been broken. His breathing had stopped at this moment. His windpipe and throat were all broken. It was extremely uncomfortable. Yi Shilua's cultivation was too strong. The level difference between Long Fei and him was too huge. It was simply an insurmountable existence. "Father," Neza shouted. Long Fei said solemnly, "I'm fine. He's not dead yet." Yi Shilua, who originally wanted to let go, suddenly had a look in his eyes. "You're not dead yet?" His left hand moved. The power behind his palm churned, as though 100,000 mountains were about to heavily strike Long Fei's head. Suddenly, a sound was heard. "Yi Shilua, are you done yet? This is the Xian city, not your divine sect." A few figures floated down from the sky. The moment they appeared, the entire Xian city was enveloped by a strong surge of profound energy, shattering all of Yi Shilua's pressure. Everyone regained their freedom and let out a long breath. The Xian Pavilion Elder immediately knelt down. "Greetings, Lord Pavilion Master." The leader was a middle-aged man in his early 30s. His body was exuding a strong aura, and with every step he took, a strange flower petal appeared. Yi Shilua's eyes turned sinister as he said softly, "The person that I, Yi Shilua, want to kill has yet to live." Long Fei being alive was his shame. Thus, Long Fei must die. Yi Shilua didn't care about the Pavilion Master as he fiercely smashed down at Long Fei's head once more. The palm imprint was like a god as it struck towards the center of Long Fei's brows. "How dare you?" The Pavilion Master was infuriated. He didn't think that Yi Shilua would still dare to attack him. However, Long Fei grabbed the ground with both hands as purple tattoos appeared on his arms. But no one could see them under his clothes. "Ah!" Long Fei roared loudly. Xian City began to tremble. The power within the Xian City continuously gathered into Long Fei's palm. The Xian City itself was one of the great protective formations of the Xian Pavilion. It was an extremely strong mystical formation, and every tile and every inch of land inside the city contained an extremely strong amount of profound energy. At this moment, Long Fei was frantically absorbing the profound energy within the Xian City. All sorts of powerful, profound energy wildly gathered onto Long Fei's hands. In that instant, Yi Shilua struck heavily. Boom, bang, 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 bang. Long Fei blocked with his left hand. Invisible streaks of profound energy appeared below his palm. Boom! Power explosion. Having directly blocked Yi Shilua's palm, Yi Shilua was incomparably shocked. "Impossible. You?" Power surged. Dust rose from all over the deep pit, and no one could see what was happening inside. Long Fei bellowed. "That was hysterical. That was hysterical." His right fist moved and smashed into Yi Shilua's abdomen. In that instant, an incomparably strong, profound energy exploded from Yi Shilua's abdomen, and at this moment, it wrapped around his entire body like an electric net. Boom, boom, rumble, boom, boom, boom. The Pavilion Master's expression changed. The power of the Xian City's protective formation. Impossible. He instantly denied it. The Xian City is the great protective formation of the Xian Pavilion, but it was only in the legends that no one had ever seen this formation before. Even the 8 Grand Courtess had not seen it before. Did this profound formation really exist? No one said it clearly. It had been far too long, and many people had only believed that there was a profound formation hidden in the Xian City, just like the legends. But just now, the whole city was shaking. All the profound energy underground surged into the pit where Long Fei was. The strength that he had just exploded out was also an extremely strong, profound strength. But the Pavilion Master's eyes turned sinister. He wanted to know just what was going on. So he took a step forward and instantly charged into the dust. Boom! A loud explosion resounded. A human figure charged out. The pavilion master's body suddenly stopped as she looked over, her pupils constricting. Yi Shiluo! Yi Shiluo shot out from the dust. The pavilion master glanced at him and realized that his face was pale, and there was not a single trace of qi left on his body. Yi Shiluo's cultivation. There were very few people in the divine sect who could kill him, and they were ranked in the top 5. But now, he no longer had any signs of life. What happened just now? The pavilion master's heart sank as the profound energy on his body formed into a violent wind. He blew fiercely and then pressed down fiercely. In the deep pit, Long Fei lied inside. His body did not move at all. The pavilion master looked at Long Fei, who was in the pit, and then looked at Yi Shiluo, who had already been blown out of the city. What exactly happened? The pavilion master landed beside Long Fei, gently touched her pulse, and the space between her eyebrows tightened. The pubes is shattered. There's still some breath left. Xianyu ran up, and when she saw the unconscious Long Fei, she immediately cried, "Master!" He was about to run into the deep pit, and then a pure and beautiful nun-like woman descended and blocked the black jade with one step. "You err! Don't go over there!" And Xianyu immediately shouted, "Aunt, go save him." The nun was Xianyu's aunt. Her name was Xianhu. Xianhu stopped the profound jade and looked at the pavilion master who was in the deep pit, and the pavilion master gently shook his head. Xianhu slightly said, let's go to Xian Pavilion first." Xianyu did not listen and said, "Auntie, please save him. You save him, okay? I beg of you. You are cultivating the Xian core art. You must have a way to save him, right? Please save him." "How is it?" "He was the one who protected me the whole way. Without him, I would have been killed by a lifeguard of Chen's family long ago. Even when I was facing an elder of the divine sect, the vice sect master was still protecting me. Aunt, I beg of you, please save him." Xianyu begged. Seeing Long Fei lying motionlessly in the deep pit, her heart ached. Just now, Long Fei did not need to come out, but he still bravely stepped forward when he saw that he was in danger. There was no one in this world who treated her as well as Long Fei. Xianhu looked at Xianyu, whose face was filled with tears, and said, "His pubes is already broken. Even if he was saved, he's still a cripple. With the pubes shattered, even if one had a higher cultivation, they would still become trash." "Save a piece of trash? Too wasteful." Xianyu struggled and said, "He saved me countless times. Without him, I wouldn't be here. If Aunt wasn't willing to save me, I would be willing to die with him." Xianhu frowned and said solemnly, "Nonsense. What is your identity? You are a princess. It is his duty to save you. Even if you die, he must protect you. Right now, his pubes is shattered and he is severely injured. Even if he is saved, he would be a waste and there is no need to save him. Don't worry, I will bury him according to the general's conditions." Xianhu did not want to save Long Fei and did not want to waste any elixirs on a cripple. With the pubes shattered, even if the great firmament golden immortal came, it would be of no use. Moreover, to a warrior, if they couldn't cultivate the pubes fragments, it was better to die than to live. Xianyu argued, "He is not someone that my father sent. He is also not some general. Guard, he is a good person who saved me when he saw that I was about to be humiliated. He did not have any obligation to protect me. However, he saved me and took care of me along the way. He did not do anything improper to me. He was my savior." Plop! Xianyu kneeled down and said, "Aunt, I beg of you, please save him. You love me the most. I beg of you." Xianhu's expression became ugly. He never thought that his esteemed niece would beg for him, for a passerby. Her pupils contracted as she coldly said one word, "No. Xian Pavilion spiritual herbs are not used on trash." Profound Jade's tears fell like rain. At this moment, cough, 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 cough. Long Fei hurriedly coughed a few times, then said indifferently, "I do not need anyone to save me." He turned his hands to the ground and slowly stood up. After touching his throat, He coughed a few times and muttered, "Damn it, I was almost strangled to death." Not bad. Luckily, I have a killing system. But why? Long Fei was a little confused. Just now, when the huge force smashed into Yi Shiluo's body, he clearly felt that Yi Shiluo had lost all signs of life and had been blown to death by the strong, profound energy. More importantly, the system clearly sounded out a notification sound. They said that he had killed Yi Shiluo, but, however, he did not obtain Yi Shiluo's cultivation realm, and only increased it by 1 level, from the 8th level of ethereal opening to the 9th level of ethereal opening. Why is that? Didn't killing whoever he killed give him a higher level? Long Fei looked at the system interface, but there was no explanation. Is it because of the power I'm hiding in my body? The power that erupted from the purple lines could not be acknowledged by the system? F*CK. Are you still F*King, letting Lousy stay with you? He could have gone up to the sky in one move, yet he insisted on making me unhappy. Long Fei was extremely contemptuous of her, but after breaking through just now, she was able to recover from her injuries. Also, Yi Shiluo exploded, and it even dropped quite a few good items. Long Fei originally wanted to lie on the ground and rest for a while, then see what had exploded outside. Xian Yu's pleading voice made him very unhappy. Then he walked out of the deep pit one step at a time. Looking at Xuan Yu, he said in a bland voice, "Don't beg anyone for me, and even more so, don't kneel down. If you do that, my heart will ache." He was very cool as he spoke. He walked to Xian Yu's side and pulled her up from the ground. Xian Yu was dumbfounded. Long Fei raised his mouth slightly. Only then did he look at Xian Hu, and at that moment his heart trembled. Damn, what a beauty! He wore a Taoist robe, and his eyes were filled with indifference and ruthlessness. It gave off a feeling of ruthlessness and coldness that made people not dare to approach him. He wore a Taoist robe, and his eyes were filled with indifference and ruthlessness. It gave off a feeling of ruthlessness and coldness that made people not dare to approach him. Her height was 1.8 meters, and her figure was tall and straight. Although her wide Taoist robe covered her body, it did not affect her exquisite curves in the slightest. That pair of long legs alone could give a person a year of tempo. It was even more beautiful than the supermodels in his previous life. It was cold and aloof, giving off the impression of a fairy from the heavens. One could only look up at it, unable to touch it. At that moment, Long Fei's heart instantly surged with the desire to conquer. This was a man's nature. In his previous life, he could only look up to those supermodels on television, but in this life, he wanted to touch upon them and even penetrate them. Xian, who was also looking at Long Fei. His cold eyes moved slightly as he said coldly, "Since he's still alive, that's even better." While they were talking, she pulled the profound jade to her side. Her heart was filled with shock. The pubes is shattered, and his entire body was severely injured, but he was able to come back to life. Furthermore, he does not seem to have any internal injuries. Why is that so? He didn't understand. However, she would not reveal her shock. She still had a cold and aloof expression on her face. The pavilion master also walked over and carefully sized Long Fei up. With a faint smile, he said, "Little brother, what happened in the deep pit just now?" Long Fei glanced at the pavilion master, who seemed to be in his 30s. He couldn't help but be displeased and asked, "Little brother, are you very old?" The pavilion master smiled and said, "I am the one bowing. Little brother, what happened in the deep pit just now?" Long Fei replied, "I don't know, I just fainted. How do I know what happened?" He didn't even know what was going on with the hidden power in his body, nor did he know if it was the eternal coffin's power or some other power. He couldn't quite control it himself. If he could do it as he pleased, why would he let his son tire like this? Coma? The pavilion master shuddered slightly. Xian, whose cold intent stirred, and he said, "It definitely has nothing to do with him. His cultivation is only at the nether passage realm. How can such a low-level cultivation trigger the power of the mountain protection profound formation?" They looked down on him. In her eyes, Long Fei was just a delinquent that wanted to eat swan meat. He had saved Xuan Yu with a little bit of cleverness. And looking at Long Fei's scoundrel face, she felt disgust in her heart. Xuan Yu replied, "Master is very strong." Xian Hu was immediately enraged and said, Pay attention to how you address me and call me master? In my opinion, he's just a little hooligan. Damn you, Long Fei cursed in his heart. Don't fall into my hands, or else I'll make you cry nonstop. Xian Yu argued, he's not a hoodlum. All right, you're young, and you don't understand how sinister the hearts of men are in this world. Furthermore, there are no good men in this world. Xian Hu said coldly. A Taoist robe appeared in his hand, and he held a horsetail whisk. She was like the godly engraved heroic couple, the red cultivator fairy Li Moli. The only difference was, she was even more beautiful than Li Moli. Normally, the one who says such words would have definitely been hurt by a man. Long Fei replied. Xian Hu immediately stared at Long Fei and said coldly, Brat, what did you say? Long Fei said, if you say that there isn't a single good man in this world, then let me ask you, what about your father? Is he also a trash? Xian Yu said, Grandpa is fine. Long Fei replied, yeah. Xian Hu was about to get angry. However, Long Fei had already stopped looking at her and was holding on to Xian Yu's hand, saying, all right, you met your aunt. This is also Xian Pavilion's territory, and since Lifeguard of Chen's family does not dare to come, and the divine sect does not dare to act rashly, you are safe now, too. It's time for me to leave. After saying that, Long Fei was about to let go. However, Xian Yu firmly clenched her fists and said, didn't you promise that you would take me in? Xian Hu sneered and said, him? You still want to enter Xian Pavilion? He doesn't even have the qualifications to take the examination. Long Fei did not mind. The reason why he agreed to Xian Yu's request was also to deal with her, but he did not think about joining any Xian Pavilion S or even joining any sections. He was also disgusted. Right now, he wanted to find the 7-flame flower and then return to the Hall of Eternal Life to cultivate Hall Master's alchemy technique. Being looked down upon by Xian Hu, Long Fei could only smile and say, you are right, I do not have the qualifications. Of course, there is no sect in this world that is qualified to let me join either. Xian Hu stared at him. What did you say? Long Fei said, just say that your Xian Pavilion doesn't have the qualifications to have me join. Xian Hu said angrily, what arrogant words. Who do you think you are? Long Fei replied, I am myself. I have never competed with who I think I am. Xian Hu said, your talent, your cultivation, you do not even have a recommendation. I said you do not have the qualifications to join the Xian Pavilion. Am I right? Long Fei said, that's right, I don't have anything, but just now I used your so-called #1 talent in Xian Pavilion to lie on the ground and not be able to get up. Just like that, he's the world's #1 genius. This kind of Xian Pavilion, what qualifications does he have for me to join? Xian Hu was at a loss for words. His face flushed red as he stared at Long Fei. You? Long Fei asked, what's wrong with me? Am I handsome? I know. I don't need you to remind me about that. You're a woman who's been hurt by a man. Xian Hu's eyes seemed to spew fire, the aura on his body turning into flames. Long Fei didn't even pay attention to him and said, I'm leaving. He had to quickly find a way to feed Neza. Neza was so hungry that he didn't have any strength left. He just wanted it for his grandma to eat. Finished. Long Fei then walked away. At this moment, Lei Gang also followed him. It followed right behind Long Fei. Long Fei looked at Lei Gang and said, why are you following me? If Long Fei could break Lei Gang's defense, he would really kill him and obtain his level. His attack power was not even as high as Lei Gang's defense. How could he kill him? Lei Gang endured the pain and said, you are now my master. Long Fei was startled. Are you joking? Lei Gang said, I once swore that whoever could take my joint force would be my master. Just now, not only did you take Slay, you also saved me. He was sincere. Even when the vice sect master was blasted flying, he didn't even bat an eye. He cultivated his fleshly body and body art. He had never seen a body technique that was stronger than his, but because Long Fei's cultivation was not high, he admired it from the bottom of his heart. Of course, he did not know that the one fighting him was not Long Fei, but Long Fei's son, Neza. But he only recognized Long Fei. Lei Gang's recognition of her master caused Xian Hu to slightly tremble, and the pavilion master was also shocked. Long Fei glanced at Lei Gang and said, "All right, you can follow me from now on." With the addition of this tiger man, Long Fei's own safety was also increased. "Let's go." Long Fei was about to walk out of the city. Suddenly, a voice came from above the profound mountain. "Grand Court has ordered that you cannot leave." As soon as he finished, two Xianling Arhats suddenly descended, directly blocking in front of Long Fei, and coldly said, "You cannot leave." Xianling Arhats blocked Long Fei's way. Xianling Arhats blocked Long Fei's way. Long Fei did not move. He moved first and lightly slipped a step, then landed beside Long Fei, staring straight at the two Xianling Arhats like an eagle, his body tensed up, waiting for Long Fei's orders. It was just a small movement, and it explained everything. Moreover, Lei Gang was severely injured, but even so, he was still protecting Long Fei, because Long Fei was his master now. Long Fei's pupils tightened and said indifferently, "What do you mean?" Xian, who was secretly shocked, "Xianling Arhats?" The other pavilion master also revealed a look of shock. Xian Yu ran over and stood at Long Fei's other side. "What are you guys trying to do?" Xianling Arhats said, "The Grand Court has orders to bring you to meet the Xian Pavilion." Long Fei said, "And if I don't go?" Xianling Arhats did not have much of an expression on his face. He simply said, "Even if you don't want to, you have to. It's very simple, you can't leave." The two Xianling Arhats were like two great Arhut gods blocking in front of them. It seemed like they didn't do anything, but all of Long Fei's escape routes had been imperceptibly sealed by them. There was no way out. This feeling was very unpleasant. Long Fei secretly clenched his fists. Bring out some more power. He wanted to release the power of eternity, but it didn't work. Lei Gang continued to stare at Xianling Arhats and muttered, "Master, I can block them for a minute." A minute was more than enough. He had to fight with his life on the line to last a minute. Long Fei smiled slightly and said, "Anyways, I want to see what the Xian Pavilion is like. Please lead the way." Although Long Fei was unhappy in his heart, he had no choice. If he were to face it head-on, the one to lose would definitely be him. Since he had nowhere to go after all, leaving the Xian city, he decided to wait and see what the Xian Pavilion's Grand Court's intentions were. Xianling Arhat stood beside Long Fei and said softly, "Let's go." Just like escorting a criminal, Long Fei did not mind. After walking a few steps, two Xianling Arhats placed their hands on Long Fei's shoulders, turned and lifted up. The three of them flew up at the same time. "Master! Master!" Xian Yu and Lei Gang shouted at the same time. Xian Hu coldly glanced at Long Fei, who was hovering in midair, and then said indifferently, "We know of Xian Pavilion as well." Xian Yu immediately asked, "Aunt, what is Grand Court trying to do?" He was very anxious. The pavilion master turned and left as well. Lei Gang sprinted all the way down the Xian Pavilion. Xian Pavilion was a sect. They were divided into 8 pavilions and a palace. Above the palace was the Grand Court, and also the location of the sect master of the Xian Pavilion. The 8 pavilions were divided into 8 different cultivation branches, and each pavilion had a pavilion master. 2 hours later, boom! Long Fei landed on the ground. The moment he landed, a bone-piercing cold wind blew like a knife across his face. He was standing on top of a mountain peak that rose into the clouds. It was very flat, as if it had been sliced flat by a sword. In the middle, there was a half-human-tall black stone on the rock. It was wrapped with some black chains. After Long Fei landed on the ground, the 2 Xianling Arhats immediately retreated and disappeared into the clouds. Achoo! Achoo! Long Fei sneezed continuously. His hands hugged his chest. He exhaled white air, his body trembling uncontrollably. So King cold, It's just like the winter in the great Northeast. Holy sh*t. What the hell is this place? Not only was it cold, long phase cultivation was completely suppressed. The power of a ninth-level ethereal opening cultivator could not be unleashed at all, and could only be carried by his body. Long Fei walked to the edge of the precipice and looked at the bottomless precipice. You know I can't fly? You're holding Lousy here as a prisoner? Damn you! Long Fei fiercely scolded as he walked up the mountain peak. Ahead emerged so cold, so cold. Long Fei curled up his body and crouched behind the black stone, while in his heart he continuously cursed the 18 generations of the Grand Court's ancestors. The Mystic Palace. The Great Mountain Protection Formation was suddenly activated, and the power inside the formation killed Yi Shiluo. Tomorrow, the Divine Sect will know about this matter. If he died in Xian City, the Divine Sect would definitely come to demand an explanation. Grand Court walked in the Great Hall and spoke blandly. Xian Pavilion and the Divine Sect have been living peacefully together all these years. It is extremely likely for Yi Shiluo's death to disrupt this balance. One of the pavilion masters immediately said, "This matter is simple. Hand over that brat from the Broken Sky Cliff, and we will have nothing else to do." Yes, although our Xian Pavilion isn't afraid of his Divine Sect, this matter has nothing to do with our Xian Pavilion. We don't die in the hands of our Xian Pavilion's disciples. Just hand over that brat. I agree. What did Long Fei count for? It had nothing to do with them. Naturally, no one cared about his life or death. A pavilion master said, "Grand Court, that brat's cultivation is only at the Nether Passage realm. Logically speaking, even the lowest level disciple of our Xian Pavilion wouldn't be able to win against him. Yet he can easily defeat Xian Tian. Not only that, even the Divine Sect's Lei Gang was defeated by him. Also, the power of the Great Mountain Protection Array killed Yi Shiluo. Is this matter related to that brat as well?" Everyone fell silent. They all knew that it was impossible for someone in the Nether Passage realm to do all this. Either Long Fei was hiding his strength, or he had a special kind of power. The other person, the pavilion master, stood out and said, "I received the news that Yi Shiluo suddenly attacked the disciples of the Xians. All the disciples of the Xian nationality of the Divine Sect were killed, and even the Xian Empire was toppled overnight. Now, it is controlled by the Chun family, and the profound jade that has escaped to the Xian city today is the last person in the Xians. She was hunted down along the way. It was that brat who saved her. Even in Xian City, both Lei Gang and Yi Shiluo have come for the profound jade. Xian Hu, although you have left the Xians for a long time, do you know the reason behind all of this?" Everyone looked at Xian Hu. Xian Hu bowed slightly, stepped out, and said, "This disciple does not know, but a month ago, this disciple received my elder brother's handwritten report that a profound jade was coming, and wanted me to keep her to cultivate in Xian Pavilion. As for anything else, this disciple doesn't know." Xian Hu said honestly, the Xians had changed greatly. The profound jade was her last Xian's disciple. Why did Yi Shiluo suddenly attack and kill her? A pavilion master said, "You don't know, but that niece of yours should know, right?" Xian Hu immediately said, "She's only a child. She doesn't even know if the Xians was annihilated, let alone the reason why." That may not be so. It was one thing for the Chun family to send people to kill her, but even Yi Shiluo had to personally take action. It could be seen how important she must be for Yi Shiluo to personally take action, or else she would become Yi Shiluo's enemy, or else she is super treasuress on her body. Super treasure, super treasure. The four words suddenly silenced the hall. Many people's eyes lit up. Their eyes landed on Xian Hu's body once again. A divine treasure that one would long for in their dreams. If the word supreme was added to the mix, it would make people salivate even more. The hall was silent for a good 3 seconds. 3 seconds that made Xian Hu feel extremely suffocated. Xian Hu said heavily, "Xian's is just a small clan in the mortal world. The family has only been established for no more than 300 years, and the highest realm that our ancestors have been in is also only the peak of Heartless Realm. It's impossible for there to be any divine treasures, and even more so, super treasure-esque. The reason why Yishua attacks Xians is definitely because someone from the Xians offended him. He wants to kill everyone to prevent future troubles. This is Yishua's usual style. Xianhu tried his best to defend himself. However, the four words super treasure were too enticing. Even if Xianhu's explanation was consistent with the truth, not many people could understand it. A pavilion master said, "Xianhu, just bring your niece in and ask her." That's right. She has already entered the Xian pavilion. If the divine sect were to pursue this matter, she would definitely be handed over to the Xian pavilion as well. If she really has a super treasure, then it's a different story. Our Xian pavilion will not stand up for a useless person. Xianhu looked at Grand Court. Grand Court said indifferently, "Let's call Xianyu in first. Do you have to ask first?" Xianhu's gaze tensed up. Facing so many pavilion masters, she had no strength to resist. If he wanted to keep the profound jade, he had to say everything. After all, the other party was from the divine sect, a power not inferior to the Xian pavilion. Xianhu nodded and said, "I'll go call her in." Walking out of the main hall, Xianyu was just outside the door. She had heard everything clearly, and, at the same time, she also knew that Long Fei was being held in Broken Sky Cliff in front of the criminals. She had been to the Xian pavilion before, so she naturally knew what kind of place the Broken Sky Cliff was. Those who stayed in that place would eventually lose their skin, be blown by the wind, cut by the cold, and had their inner strength locked up. No matter how strong they were, they wouldn't be able to withstand it. Without waiting for Xianhu to call her, she immediately rushed into the hall and said, "Grand Court, I have a divine treasure on me." As soon as he finished, the entire hall was in an uproar. There's really a super treasure? There really is one. I can't see that there are actually super treasure hidden in the Xians. I guessed it right. Kid, can you show it to us? One by one, their expressions changed. These pavilion masters had all sorts of experiences, but in front of the super treasure, they couldn't help but get excited. Xianhu immediately said, This is the illusory palace. You cannot speak carelessly. What is it that I don't know about in Xians? Why have I never heard of super treasure?" Xianhu started to worry. It was fine if he didn't say anything about it, but she could still save it. However, when she said that, even if the divine sect didn't come to take them, the people of Xian Pavilion would do everything they could to control the profound jade. Super treasure is too exciting. When I left the palace, Father gave me something. I think it should be the super treasure that you were talking about. While they were talking, Xianyu took out an ancient box. Once the box was taken out, everyone in the hall held their breath. His eyes were still staring at the box in Xianyu's hand as a sharp light flashed across them. But the black jade suddenly kept the box again and said, "You guys let Big Brother Long Fei go. I'll give this box to you guys right now." The box was old. Veins were very rare. When the pavilion master saw this, their expressions immediately changed. Grand Court said indifferently and asked, "Little girl, what is in this?" Xianyu shook her head and said, "I don't know. I have never opened it." Many of the pavilion masters gently swallowed their saliva. Right now, they were like a beauty dancing behind a thin layer of silk, causing them to be unable to stop themselves from doing so. "Open it first and see what's inside." "Yes, let's open it and take a look," Xianyu firmly said. "Let them go first." Grand Court slightly said, "Girl, we can release him. I will keep my words. First, open the box for everyone to see what is inside." "Do you believe what I'm saying?" Xianhu looked at the profound jade and said, Since Grand Court has said so, he will definitely do it." "That's right. Grand Court has already made a promise. What else do you have to worry about? Let's open it first." "Open it and take a look." All of their excited expressions were gathered around Xianyu, wanting to be the first one to clearly see what was inside. Xianyu said, "No, I have to release him first." The center of Grand Court's brows tightened as he said, somewhat unhappily, "Do you think I can lie to a little kid like you?" Xianyu said firmly, "Let them go first." One of the pavilion masters lost his patience and shouted angrily, "How dare you!" As soon as he finished, he snatched the ancient box from Xian Yu's hands. Their speed was extremely fast, and everyone's eyes immediately narrowed. The elder shouted, "I will open it." The mysterious jade wanted to reclaim it, but it was repelled by an invisible force. Xianhu immediately asked, "Yang Huai, what are you trying to do?" Xianhu quickly ran to Xianyu's side to support her. It was also at this time that the profound jade gently whispered into Xianhu's ear, "Aunt, close your eyes." Xianhu was startled. Yang Huai's eyes became excited, swallowed his saliva, and ecstatically said in his heart, "I'm the first person to see the super treasure, ha ha." He carefully and gently opened the box. At this moment, a bright light shot out. Everyone's heart floated to their throats. They all held their breaths, feeling incomparably excited. What is it? What is it? To be able to emit such a bright light, he must definitely be an extraordinary existence. Ha ha! The box was completely opened. All of a sudden, rumble! An explosion sounded from inside the box. A bright light shot out. The strong light pierced into his eyes, forming a huge, killing power. It was also at this time. My eyes. I can't see. I can't see. My eyes, I can't see. Kill that bitch. Kill him. His eyes were in incomparable pain. In that instant, the strong light blinded all of their eyes. All of a sudden, the ancient box tumbled to the ground. Hearing the box fall to the ground, the pavilion masters and elders' hearts sank, and they too pounced towards the source of the sound. "It's mine. It's mine. The super treasure is mine." Xianhu opened his eyes and looked at the ancient box on the ground that was continuously being robbed. There was nothing inside the box. Xianyu pulled Xianhu back and said, "Aunt, bring me to the broken sky cliff. He has saved me so many times, I want to save him once. Don't let him go. Kill her." The 8 Grand Courtess, along with one more Grand Court, and more than a dozen Xian Pavilion elders, were all blinded in an instant. The 8 Grand Courtess, along with one more Grand Court, and more than a dozen Xian Pavilion elders, were all blinded in an instant. The entire palace was in chaos. No one would have thought that a seemingly weak girl would bring such a great killing weapon. This was the human heart. It wasn't that the jade was evil, but that they were too greedy. Super treasure made them forget everything. Moreover, to be able to blind the people at the peak of this plane, this kind of damage, this kind of power, could indeed be counted as super treasure. When they left the imperial palace, Xianyu's father had instructed her not to open it. If it was a last resort, she must close her eyes as well. He had to close his eyes. The profound jade originally wanted Grand Court to first let Long Fei go, then she would stay behind and open the box. Xian's was killed. She was the only one who escaped. She felt that her life had already lost all meaning. The only person she could think of was Long Fei. If she could save Long Fei before she died, then she wouldn't have any regrets. However, when the people of Xian Pavilion heard that the super treasure had gone completely crazy and even took the box away from her hands, what was this? If you don't court death, you won't die. All of the experts were blinded. Grand Court shouted loudly, "All of you do not move." The main hall immediately quieted down. Grand Court rubbed his eyes and felt a sharp pain. His eyes should have been shattered by the strong light just now. He couldn't recover his sight either. Cluck, 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 cluck. Grand Court gritted his teeth as his joints exploded. His rage turned the flames on his body into flames, and his voice became heavy as he said, "Xianling Arhats, kill the 2 of them." As soon as he finished speaking, 4 figures shot out from the illusory palace. He quickly chased after them. Hearing Grand Court's voice, Xianhu stopped Xianyu and immediately changed direction, saying, "It's too late. I can't save him anymore." Xianyu said, "Aunt, I must save him." Xianhu said, "That won't do. Only the Xianling Arhats can go up. Even I am unable to get close. Once we step into the domain of the broken sky cliff, our cultivation will automatically disappear, and then everything will be real. Listen to me. Aunt is an experienced person. There isn't a man in this world that can be relied on, and neither can he. The reason why he helped you is because he covets your beauty, or else it's because you have the status of a princess. Believe in your aunt. He is unreliable. Xianhu said anxiously. Xianling Arhitz's cultivation was higher than hers. If they could catch up to her, they would definitely not be able to escape and would definitely be caught and brought back. At that time, it would be hard for them to escape death. Furthermore, even if they managed to escape, they would still run for their lives. Xianyu shook her head. Auntie, he's different. Xianhu said, What's different? Men are all the same. Animals whose lower body is thinking they shouldn't be appearing in this world. She hated men, the kind of hatred that went down to the bone. Xianyu shook her head. After a moment of hesitation, she said, Aunt, actually, Xianhu looked at Xianyu's hesitant expression and said, You won't follow him. Did you do something stupid? Xianyu's heart skipped a beat. She knew that her aunt's thoughts were wrong. She immediately said, Aunt, I'm already pregnant with this child. Huh? Xianyu's pupils tightened as two balls of flames appeared in his eyes. I want to kill that brat. Fury raged through him, burning crazily. It was as if she was going to go berserk. Xianyu immediately cried out, Aunt, do you want my child to have no father? As she spoke, Xianyu gently caressed her stomach. Xianhu was about to go crazy again. Looking at the tears on Xianyu's face, his heart ached. And then, Xianhu pulled on the profound jade and rushed in the direction of the broken sky cliff. Xianyu secretly rejoiced. She secretly thought in her heart, as long as we can find Big Brother Long Fei, then everything won't be a problem. And then there was Long Fei. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Long Fei hissed coldly. His body curled up into a ball, and the stone he leaned on was like ice. Long Fei's entire body was covered in a layer of white frost, as if he had been frozen solid. It didn't matter if he was cold. Long Fei was even more worried about Neza. He was completely hungry and had fainted. No way. If this goes on, I will freeze to death here. Long Fei said heavily. I must do something. However, what could he do? Long Fei looked at the chain on the black stone, and the chain immediately rolled down to the bottom of the stone. He didn't know how long the chain would be. Not caring about anything else, he pulled on the chain and dragged it. He didn't know if this would work, but once it did, a large section of the chain was pulled out. Huh? Long Fei was startled. If these chains are long enough, then we should be able to climb down. He violently pulled again. He pulled another large section out. Resistance, more and more chains. Behind Long Fei, a mountain of chains suddenly appeared. There's hope. Walala. Walala. The more Long Fei pulled, the more power he felt, and he also threw the other end of the chain off the cliff. Walala. The chain struck against the cliff twice, producing constant sounds. Long Fei could tell the height of the chains when he heard the sounds, and calculated in his heart, it should be reaching the end soon, right? Boom! Suddenly, Long Fei fiercely pulled, and directly pulled on an incomparably heavy object, letting out an explosive sound. In an instant, walala, the chains frantically retreated. Like a black electric snake, Long Fei dragged it for an hour, but only used less than 3 seconds to retract it. Long Fei grabbed the last end, with both feet on top of the black stone. If we drag it all down, then there's no hope for me going down. Boom! The chain shook and broke the skin on Long Fei's hand. The black stone who were staring at him with their legs moved. A hole was revealed. The cave was emitting red, gaseous flames, as if it was lava. What kind of place is this? The cold wind is bone-chilling from above, and the heat below is unbearable. Ice and fire twin heavens, just what is this? Ah-ha-ha. Suddenly, a wild laugh could be heard. What pure blood! This old man has never absorbed such a pure blood in the past 3,000 years. This is too exciting. As soon as he finished, a strand of power passed through the chain and fiercely exploded, directly enveloping Long Fei, and instantly dragged him. Buzz! Long Fei's entire person fell into the deep hole and was pulled crazily into the deep hole along the chain, completely out of control. In the deep cave, He laughed maniacally in excitement. We can eat now, but there's a feast to eat. There's a big meal to eat. Ha ha! Eat you, and I will ascend to heaven. Eat you, and I will ascend to heaven. Eat you, and I will ascend to heaven. A roar was crazily pulled down from the narrow mountain passage, and simply could not control his own body. Ah-ha-ha! Ah-ha-ha! Strange sounds of laughter rang out as the chains began to twist. After leaving the broken sky cliff, Long Fei's cultivation had recovered, but he was still able to. The power of an ethereal opening cultivator was completely useless. Under the immense tugging force, his strength was as weak as an ant. In the end, Long Fei gave up. He gathered his strength in his right palm and waited for an attack. Walala. 10 minutes later. Bam! Long Fei heavily landed inside a cave. The cave was incredibly hot, and the ground was emitting an extremely pungent smell that was difficult to endure. White flames spewed out from the cracks, and at the very instant that Long Fei landed, Hualala, a burst of intense sounds of chains being pulled rang out, and in an instant, a huge steel ball rolled to Long Fei's side. The metal ball was covered in all kinds of strange runes. It was incomparably ancient. At the top of the metal ball was a head with shining scalp, sparse long hair on both sides of its head, eyebrows reaching into the sky, and a beard like steel needles. A fiery light shone in his eyes. He stared at Long Fei, his throat rolling. I smell the pure blood vein in your veins, the power of the supreme blood vein. Great meal. Ah, a super big meal. As long as I eat you up, no one will be able to trap me here anymore. Haha. While they were talking, Strange Old Man laughed crazily again. The steel ball rolled and directly rolled in front of Long Fei, staring at him. His distance from Long Fei was only 10 centimeters. At this moment, Buddha palm technique. He gathered all his strength and struck out with his full strength, slashing out with his palm. It directly landed on the Strange Old Man's head. Rumble. When the power was released at close range, the power of the Buddha palm technique was completely released. Even if the power did not die, it could still cause quite a bit of damage. However, as the palm smashed down, Long Fei did not stop at all. While he's sick, take his life. He clenched his hand into a fist and punched forward. Bang, bang, bang. Consecutive critical strikes. He also took out the weapon that burst out from Yi Shilua's body and slashed down heavily. No matter how strong the force was, he would still use it to smash at Strange Old Man's head. However, it was useless. No pain, no pain. It's not as strong as scratching with my hand. Use a bit more strength. Use a bit more strength. Quick, quick, quick. Ha! Good luck. Kid, is that all you have? Haven't you eaten? Why did those scum of the Xian Pavilion lock you up there? There's no reason. F***CK. So boring. The Strange Old Man kept on talking, and his face was filled with enjoyment, as if his scalp was going to itch and Long Fei was going to tickle him. No damage was dealt. Every time he made a move, it would be muss. The series of letters in English made Long Fei's scalp tingle. Hoo 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 hoo. Hoo 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 hoo. Long Fei was a little out of breath. He looked at Strange Old Man's satisfied expression and said, "Your sister." Strange Old Man laughed and said, "This old man has no sister. This old man has a monster sister. Do you want her?" Long Fei. In his hand, he held a sword that Yi Shilua had revealed and slashed down fiercely. The things that came from Yi Shilua's body were naturally not ordinary goods. Clang! However, it broke apart. Strange Old Man laughed out loud. He rolled the iron ball onto the short sword and directly bit into it. He chewed it and said, "Delicious, delicious." Anything else? In his mouth, the broken sword was like a piece of meat, dripping with saliva as he ate, as if he had been eaten for several lifetimes. In addition, the broken sword quickly melted into liquid in his mouth. Gudon. He swallowed it all in one gulp. Delicious, delicious. Is there anything else? If not, I'll eat you. While they were talking, Strange Old Man's saliva was dripping down even more, and he was completely unable to stop it. While he was devouring the broken sword, Long Fei had been constantly searching for the strange old man's weakness. Other than a head, no legs, and no hands, this fellow also had a groove at the bottom that was locked with a chain. Not far away, there was a pile of chains the size of a small mountain. Distance. Long Fei's heart jumped out 2 words. However, without waiting for him to move, the strange old man gave a weird laugh and said, "Little fellow, don't even think about leaving here. No one here has ever been able to escape. Do you see that over there?" Strange old man looked to the other side. All skeletons. At least 100 people. Long Fei's heart trembled as he quickly analyzed in his mind. His speed and strength had been suppressed, and the cave was not big. The length of the chain was enough to spin a few rounds, so he had no chance of escaping. And then, Long Fei smiled slightly and said, "Senior, there's something that we can discuss. Look at how long it's been since you last saw anyone. Now that you've finally seen me alive, don't you want to talk about life and your dreams?" Long Fei tried to stall the strange old man. It was more important for him to keep his life right now. The strange old man laughed mischievously. "What life and dream? I only want to know one thing now. Do you want to eat your feet first, or eat your head first?" "Gudong." As he spoke, he forcefully swallowed his saliva. "Damn you!" Long Fei cursed in his heart once again. Just as he was at his wit's end, the strange old man's expression changed slightly as she said, "It's been several hundred years, but I've never seen a single living person. They were all dead before. You were the first to come here alive." And he wasn't scared to death by my appearance. Seeing the strange old man speak, Long Fei knew that there was a chance. He took the chance and said, "Senior is very handsome and handsome. It is memorable, especially that pair of eyes, which is like the fiery eyes of truth, making people respect you. From the moment I saw Senior, my admiration for you was like the unending waves of the ocean. You are like the brightest star in the night sky, guiding the entire wild universe, guiding those who have lost their way to find a right direction." Even Long Fei himself was a little embarrassed when he said those words. Strange old man also stared at Long Fei. Rage flickered in his eyes. Long Fei was secretly shocked. "Damn, did I fail?" Strange old man said in a deep voice, "Nonsense." "Crap." Long Fei's heart trembled. Strange old man suddenly said, "Say what you just said again." Hearing that, Long Fei immediately laughed and said, "Senior's looks are handsome and handsome." Strange old man said, "Only handsome and handsome?" Long Fei immediately exaggerated his words. "The #1 commander of the universe. So handsome that he explodes the heavens." Strange old man laughed and said, "That's more like it. I am indeed so handsome." Seeing him laugh, Long Fei carefully asked, "I wonder what Senior's name is. Why would you be imprisoned in this kind of place?" Strange old man's eyes turned sinister. His eyes released an incomparably savage light. "This old man's name is Tao Tai." This old man's name is Tao Tai. This old man's name is Tao Tai. As soon as strange old man finished speaking, Long Fei glared at him. "Tao Tai? Tao Tai? A Tao Tai that swallows the heavens and the earth." Long Fei was a little stupefied and muttered, "No, the Tao Tai should be a divine beast. It shouldn't be a human." Strange old man was secretly shocked when he heard Long Fei and said, "Heaven devouring, heaven and earth, devour everything." These words are very comfortable to hear. "Kid, it seems like you know about me. My ancestor was indeed a divine beast. He can be said to be the #1 beast of the wild universe, a super almighty powerhouse who could swallow the heavens, the earth, and everything else." His eyes were blazing. As he spoke of his ancestors, his eyes were filled with even more respect. Long Fei shook and said, "It really is a Tao Tai. Senior, your power is unfathomably strong, an existence that can devour everything. Why are you in prison here?" Long Fei continued to flatter her. A Tao Tai was a fierce beast. He would never be able to eat until he was full. However, in the legends of Earth, how powerful was it in this world? I don't know. After all, there were all sorts of monsters in this world. However, the old geezer Tao Tai enjoyed Long Fei's flattery. So he became less hostile towards Long Fei and said furiously, "This all starts from 3,000 years ago. It was a moonless night. On that day, he was ambushed by 100 almighty powerhouses. They do not understand the power of my Tao Tai tribe, nor have they seen the brutality of the Tao Tai race. So what if all 100 almighty powerhouses join forces and unleash their most powerful killing moves? Not even a hair on my head. All of them were swallowed by this old man." But the Tao Ye's pupils constricted as a thick inferno flashed in its eyes. This group of treacherous and despicable almighty powerhouse actually planted soul poison in their bodies. After swallowing 10 people in succession, my body started to feel exceptionally hot. Like lava, my body felt like it was about to erupt. At that time, I knew that I had been tricked. If the other 90 almighty powerhouses were to join hands and attack, I would not be able to withstand it. But our Tao Tai tribe will never retreat. I'll still fight them to the death. The old geezer Tao Tai spoke while spittle flew everywhere. He was brimming with vigor and vitality, as if a battlefield had arrived, and he was bringing down the 100 almighty powerhouses, sweeping away everything with him. Long Fei pretended to be excited and said, "Senior is truly mighty. What happened to those despicable grandchildren?" "Despicable grandson?" "Yes, they're all a bunch of despicable grandsons." Tao Tai continued talking. It was like telling a fairy tale. The more powerful he was, the more despicable the enemy would be. To the end. The 100 almighty powerhouses have all been swallowed by me. So what if we have poison hidden deep inside? Our Tao Tai tribe has never been afraid of anything. But I completely ignored the poison in their bodies. My body is splitting apart. My body continues to crack. His eyes dimmed. I know that I might be about to die. I fell down from the dark wild universe and landed on this plane. When I wake up, my body will become this metal ball. Long Fei looked at the iron ball. "Senior, how can a mere iron ball be able to trap you?" Tao Tai said, "You are right. How can this kind of iron ball trap me?" At that time, I displayed my divine power and wanted to directly swallow this metal ball. However, these iron balls are engraved with all kinds of runes. These runes will transform the iron balls into my own body. How can I consume my body? This is my shame, the shame of the Tao Tai tribe. I hate those 100 almighty powerhouses. The dregs of the Xian Pavilion, if they didn't presume to control my body, they would not have turned into an iron ball. They want to protect my life and want me to be of use to them. Ha ha! They're too self-righteous. The Tao Tai heavily roared. The entire mountain trembled and rubble tumbled down. Boundless energy bounced off of the mountain. Long Fei could feel an incomparably dense, killing intent from his words. How noble was the Tao Tai tribe! They would rather die in battle than live a life like this. In this cave for 3,000 years, he wouldn't even die. A painful expression appeared in the Tao Ye's eyes. Long Fei said slightly, "Senior, is there any way to save you? As long as I can do it, even if I die, I'll do it with all my might." Long Fei revealed an extremely sincere expression. This was him capturing the Tao Tai's affability level. He really didn't have the strength. Otherwise, Long Fei would have killed the Tao Tai and gotten his rank. What a pity. It couldn't even break the Tao Ye's defense. Elderly Taoti laughed bitterly and said, "There's no other way. My body has been poisoned, and I can only curl myself inside the iron ball. Even if the rune seal on the ball breaks, I have no way of getting out." Long Fei said, "Senior, don't say that. There must be a way." It was best if he could save him. If he couldn't, then this guy would still eat him in the end. Elderly Taoti said, "As long as you have that intention, saving me is impossible. In the past, those who saw me in one breath were all scared to the point that they peed their pants. No one wanted to chat with me like you. They even thought of saving me and leaving. If I meet you in the outside world, I will definitely tell them. Drink it for 3 days and 3 nights." Long Fei forced out 2 tears and said, "Senior, there will always be a way." Tao Tai saw Long Fei's tears and felt as if his heart had warmed. He said, "Child, don't be sad. The reason I decided to stay in this cave is to wait for a fated person to help me send a message back to the Tautai tribe and tell them that I did not embarrass my ancestors. Hearing that, Long Fei was secretly shocked in his heart. Long Fei said, "Senior, I'll help you send a message." Elderly Tauti looked at Long Fei and said, "You cannot enter the plane where the Tautai tribe is located. Your body is too weak." The different planes naturally required different amounts of power. Each plane had its own unique law energy. The Tautai clan's plane of existence was very high, so Long Fei's current physical body naturally could not enter. Long Fei said, "Don't worry, Senior. This brat will make the best use of his time to cultivate. He will definitely help you bring the letter back to the Tautai tribe." Elderly Tauti said, "Even if you can enter my plane, you won't be able to enter the Tautai tribe. The Tautai tribe can only be found and entered by the Tautai blood veins clansmen." Long Fei revealed a silly look and said, "Then what should we do? There must be a way." The elderly Tauti looked at Long Fei and said indifferently, "There's only one way to enter the Tautai tribe, and that is to have the Tautai blood vein or the body of Tautai." Long Fei said, "What should we do?" Elderly Tauti thought for a moment, then said, "Kill me. Kill me. Kill me." Elderly Tauti thought for a moment and said calmly. Long Fei immediately shrunk and said, "I can't. I absolutely can't. How can I kill Senior? I was still thinking of rescue Senior out. Then we could have a carefree and happy life together." Although he said this, Long Fei secretly thought in his heart, "Quickly, quickly, tell me where to kill? How is a weakness? I will immediately kill you." One cannot help but be cautious. Even if elderly Tauti had a sincere face and wanted to die, Long Fei still could not pretend to accept it because what if this was a trap? If he jumped down, he would truly be doomed. Not to mention, Long Fei's blood essence made elderly Tauti very excited at the beginning. Elderly Tauti said, "If you don't kill me, you won't be able to get out. With your current cultivation, you can't even take care of those dregs in Shin Pavilion. Only by killing me will you have the chance to go out, cultivate to a certain level, and find the place where the Tautai tribe is located. Only then will you be able to find my clansmen. Boy, don't be so long-winded. Come quickly. As long as I retract my defensive power, you can kill me." He looked like he was begging for death. However, Long Fei did not make a move. "No, even if I die, I can't harm Senior. And if I can't go to the Tautai tribe, wouldn't I be scammed by you? Didn't you just say that I would ascend to heaven if I ate it? Senior, you might as well eat me. With my cultivation, there's no point in messing around. Living would be a waste of air." Long Fei still maintained his guard down. The elderly Tauti said, "Your blood essence is indeed the purest I have ever seen. Even those almighty powerhouses' blood vein can't compare to it. Logically speaking, your cultivation level of this kind of blood vein shouldn't be so weak. As for the reason why, I don't know, but I believe that you will definitely become stronger to be able to absorb my power. I can eat you to increase my power a little, but my body is like that. So, no matter what, I can't leave this place. Bring it on. Make your move." Long Fei shook his head and said, "Senior, you absolutely cannot." He was still testing. Elderly Tauti said, "Are you that naughty? Is he even a man? If I told you to do it, then why are you spouting so much nonsense?" "Faster." Long Fei revealed a difficult expression as he looked at elderly Tauti and said, "Is that really necessary?" Elderly Tauti said, "Come." Long Fei said, "Then so be it." His heart was bursting with joy. Killing a Tautai would give one an extremely strong physical body. With his physical body, it could be said that ordinary people couldn't hurt him at all. However, Long Fei was ecstatic in his heart, but he did not dare reveal it. Furthermore, he could not have any hint of killing intent on him, and could only hold back his joy. "Come," elderly Tauti shouted. Long Fei said solemnly, "All right, I'll be going now." A palm struck down. This time, it was different from last time. After the defense was put away, a scarlet number appeared above elderly Tauti's head. 10920. At the same time, the number on top of elderly Towdy's head also appeared. 100 million HP. Damn, the heck. Long Fei was secretly shocked in his heart. The elderly Towdy said angrily, "You only have this little power? Use your strongest strength. Otherwise, how long will you be fighting for?" 100 million HP. If he just killed them like that, who knew how long he would have to wait? However, Long Fei could not reveal his joy and killing intent and said, "Senior, I do not have the heart to do so." Maybe it was because Long Fei had hidden it well. Maybe it was because elderly Towdy really wanted to die. Elderly Towdy was very pleased. With a light voice, he said, "Brat, I bet everything on you." As soon as he finished, elderly Towdy suddenly bounced up, and a huge iron ball fiercely collided with the mountain. Rumble. It was also at this time that a long string of numbers floated up above elderly Towdy's head. Rumble. Another fierce collision. The mountain started to crack, and the broken sky peak continued to emit violent tremors. The entire Xian pavilion began to shake. What is that sound? The loud noise coming from Broken Sky Peak. What's going on? Have you still not caught the two scumbags from Xian's? Xianling Arhits is too useless, right? Within the illusory palace, the pavilion masters and elders were adapting to the eye-less sensing ability. Sensing the violent tremors that were coming from the Broken Sky Peak, the Grand Court was slightly shocked. Could it be that the monster is going to come out? Report. Reporting to Grand Court, Elder Xian who has gone to Broken Sky Peak. Grand Court bellowed. Could it be that he wants to save him? How preposterous. Where's the Xianling Arhits? Haven't you caught up yet? The disciple replied. Reporting to Grand Court, Xianling Arhits has already caught up. It's just that there was a loud noise coming from inside Broken Sky Peak a moment ago. Xianling Arhits is waiting for your order. Grand Court said without any hesitation. Kill. Yes. The disciple quickly walked out. Grand Court frowned. No matter what, you have to die today. Aunt, what should we do? Xian Yu looked at the surrounding Xianling Arhits and elders. The strength of these people were all far above them. Xian Hu frowned. He placed a profound jade behind him and said, Don't be afraid. I will stall them later. Think of a way to leave first. Aunt will follow shortly. It was impossible to leave under these circumstances. She only wanted to leave the last incense for the Xians. Although Xian Hu was heartless, he loved and doted upon all kinds of profound jades. Xian Yu looked at the Broken Sky Peak not far behind her, reluctance in her eyes. Xian Hu said, His cultivation is definitely not going to live in the Broken Sky Cliff. He might already be dead. You better not care about him. In the distance, when Xian Hu saw a messenger flying back, her heart tensed up. It's here. Grand Court has decreed it. Kill. With that, the Xianling Arhits instantly moved. Xian Hu grabbed the profound jade and suddenly pushed it back, saying, Let's go. He turned around and sent a palm strike towards it. Bam! The palm collided. Xian Hu immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face became pale. His entire body flew out. One of the Xianling Arhits rushed towards the black jade, and Xian Hu immediately flew over to stop him. Bang, bang. After 2 consecutive palm strikes, Xian Hu spat out another mouthful of blood. She was not a match for Xianling Arhits at all. At the same time, rumble, rumble. The Broken Sky Peak continued to emit rumbling sounds. Long Fei said, Senior, you don't need to. He said in his heart, use a little more strength. As long as the Tao Tai died, then it was equal to killing him, and he could also drop something. The most important thing was the Tao Ye's flesh. Invincible fleshly body. As Long Fei looked at the gashes on the head of the Tao Tai, getting smaller and smaller, his heart also became more and more excited. Just a little more, just a little more. See, Happy New Year. To the elderly Towdy, death was a form of release. To the elderly Towdy, death was a form of release. It was the best release. He could not return to the Tao Tai tribe, nor could he use this kind of body to return. He was arrogant. Tao Tai blood vein was arrogant. He did not want to sully Tao Tai's arrogance because of him and would be ridiculed by other races. The achievements of him monopolizing 100 almighty powerhouses were praised and sung. The Tao Tai tribe thought he was dead. His heart was filled with incomparable pride. This pride of his slowly faded over the course of 3,000 years. Death was released for him, and his soul would return to the Tao Tai tomb. However, before he died, he wanted someone to send a message back. He also wanted his will, strength, and the Tao Tai blood vein to be passed on to someone. He died, but he was passed on. This was a kind of legacy. Perhaps the words of the young man in front of him were flattery, and did it because he wanted to live. However, this young man at least did not make him feel disgusted. In this long period of time, other than the first group of patriarchs from the Xian Pavilion, everyone else was shocked speechless when they saw him. Only Long Fei remained calm. Be it licking his horse or revealing his true feelings, elderly Taudi had chosen Long Fei. There was also a very important point. Long Fei's blood essence contained a very special kind of energy. Even he did not know what kind of attribute this energy was and had never seen it before. Once the power within the blood essence erupted, the entire wild universe would tremble. It was also because of this that the elderly Taudi was betting everything on this. Maybe Long Fei would forget about him once he escaped, but at the very least, his blood vein his flesh and body would be in Long Fei's possession for a very long time. Rumble. Elderly Taudi collided violently again. The entire Broken Sky Peak was on the verge of collapse. The mountain continued to crack, and cracks spread out in all four directions. The entire Xian Pavilion was shaken. Kid, I'm just a little bit away. Elderly Taudi let out a heavy cry, looked at Long Fei's calm expression, and said, "At this time, you are still neither humble nor arrogant, and you did not reveal a single trace of joy. Even if you lied to me, I would still bet on your calmness." Rumble. Another violent collision. Neither servile nor overbearing. Showing joy. He wanted to die. Long Fei's eyes were always staring at the bloody groove on top of elderly Taudi's head. Before it had turned into zero, Long Fei had been acting like a grandson the entire time. Tears rolled down his face as he said, "Senior, please don't. Senior will definitely have a way." He was exceptionally careful. As long as elderly Taudi still had a little bit of HP left, even if his defense was opened, he wouldn't be able to kill him. The toughness of a Taoi's body was beyond imagination. How could Long Fei show the excitement in his heart? The mountain began to crack and the cave began to crack. Only a few hundred points of blood remained on elderly Taudi's head. If they were to hit him again, he would probably die. At this moment, elderly Taudi suddenly stopped and looked at Long Fei. Long Fei's heart tightened as he thought in his heart, "Master, at this critical moment, you better not go back on your word." This was what Long Fei was most worried about. Elderly Taudi smiled faintly and said, "Are you worried that I would go back on my words?" Long Fei said, "Senior, why would you think that way? Right now the mountain is about to break apart. We can all escape." The elderly Taudi laughed and said, "This metal ball and chains trapped me. Even if I escape, I shouldn't be treated as a monster. I stopped because I had something for you to do." Long Fei's heart relaxed, and he said, "Senior, please give me your instructions. I will do my best." The elderly Taudi said, "It's actually very simple. After you obtain my body and obtain my inheritance, you will become very strong. I want you to kill all the pavilion masters of the Xian Pavilion. These people are all those dregs of the past. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have become like this." Long Fei said, "Even if Senior had not said it, I would have done the same. Killing and upgrading system. How can I level up without killing people?" Moreover, Long Fei suppressed his belly full of fire. "I almost froze to death on Broken Sky Cliff. If he did not defeat that Grand Court, he would not be called Long Fei." Elderly Taudi laughed and said, "All right, then empty your body. Ready." With that, the elderly Taudi's eyes became calm, and he said heavily, "Brat, remember your promise to me. If you can't do it, the Tao Tai tribe will not let you go. Remember this." A furious roar. Elderly Taudi heavily crashed into it. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Long Fei did not care about what happened to the broken sky peak. His eyes were firmly locked on the blood groove above the Tao Ye's head. A hint of joy finally flashed through his eyes. Explode. In an instant, elderly Taoti's head exploded as fresh blood spurted out. It was also at this time that the runes on the metal ball on his body flashed with light, wanting to absorb the power of the Tao Tai blood vein. However, elderly Taoti had already thought of this. At the moment of his death, he used his strength and madly rushed out. "You want my strength, you dregs." Buzz! The iron ball exploded. The lower half of the elderly Taoti that was revealed to the public was a skeleton. It was shocking and unbearable to look at. Looking at elderly Taoti, he slowly lowered his body and said, "Don't worry, I, Long Fei, will definitely do what I have promised. No matter what plane your Taotai tribe is in, I will definitely do it." The corner of elderly Taoti's mouth revealed a faint smile. He closed his eyes and remained silent. At the same time, elderly Taoti's head was also shrinking rapidly, eventually turning into a dried-up corpse. A ray of fluorescent light floated onto the corpse and entered Long Fei's body. Ding! Congratulations to the player Long Fei for killing Tao Tai. Do you want to obtain his flesh? A Tao Tai is a beast. Thus, they could only absorb his fleshly body. Long Fei moved his body and said, "Capture." Ding! System prompt. Acquired successfully. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Tao Tai body. Long Fei opened the system to check the body's grade, and the corner of his mouth slightly hooked up. The highest body level on this plane is the profound body. Since ancient times, there has never been a person capable of breaking through to the profound body's level. However, your father, Super God body. This level of body should be considered immortal in this plane, right? Back then, when the elderly Taoti fell here, the powerhouse wanted to kill him as well. No matter what power is used, it is unable to cause harm to the Taotai. This was also the reason they had just forged the gigantic seal iron ball and chains on the Tao Ye's heavily injured body, only thinking that when he died, they would be able to absorb the huge power on his body. However, all of this was obtained by Long Fei. And then, the glow of the Tao Tai that fell into Long Fei's body also exploded. Spirit. Once the fluorescent light fell, it directly burst out of Long Fei's 7 apertures. At this moment, cluck, 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 every joint in his body crackled with explosive sounds, as if they were rapidly growing. It was as if they were developing twice. The bones were being strengthened, the molten steel was being poured in, and every pore was undergoing a metamorphosis. Every hair on his body was like a steel needle. "Ah!" Long Fei roared. Rumble, rumble. The mountain continued to crack and impact, and the cracks in the cave continued to extend outwards. Long Fei's body was undergoing a metamorphosis. His broken pubes slowly rotated, forming a spiral like a galaxy. The vortex slowly rotated, and under the stimulation of the fluorescent light, the rotation speed became faster and faster. Boom, boom, boom. The whirling sound exploded. Finally, the shattered pubes completely disappeared, forming a small black hole. The surface of Long Fei's skin was covered with the scales of a Tao Tai, which were pitch black. Blood began to appear on the surface of his skin. Buzz. Another buzz. A fluorescent light flashed. The power of the Tao Tai was completely poured into it, circulating from every part of Long Fei's body, and finally entering the small black hole called the pubes. Boom! The fluorescent light disappeared, and Long Fei's body returned to its original state. He lightly clenched his fists. Creak, 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 creak. Beast scales began to appear one after another. Brown scales like black rocks. At this moment, Long Fei could feel the limitless defensive power, an indescribable power. Super God body's defense. This should be the power of the Tao Ye's physical body, the defense of its super divine body. Long Fei was incomparably excited, looked at the Tao Tai that had turned into a dried corpse on the ground, and said seriously, Although you don't look handsome, and are even very ugly, but I will definitely do my best to accomplish what I, Long Fei, have promised you. Rest in peace. Your glory will last forever. Long Fei walked to the exit where the elderly Touty had already smashed. Looking at the gusts of wind howling outside, and listening to the mountains constantly crack, the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. So high. Did he fall to his death? Heh. What Long Fei obtained was a Taoyu's fleshly body, but he did not receive a rank. Right now, he was still a 9th-level ethereal opening cultivator, so it was impossible for him to fly down from this height. However, without any hesitation, he jumped down. I have an immortal body now. Boom! With a leap, he charged out. At this moment, Walala, walala, the broken sky peak collapsed, and the dangerous mountain peak that rose into the sky continued to break as it fell from the sky. Huge rocks crazily fell. The mountain peak that was tens of thousands of meters high continued to fall apart. All of Xian Pavilion were shocked. Report. Grand Court, broken sky peak, is collapsing. Grand Court's eyes darkened. That monster. He was the Grand Court, and he knew that there was a monster locked up in the broken sky peak for a long time. His power was so great that even he didn't dare to approach it. It was said by the ancestors that they had to wait until the monster died. Only when the monster died would they be able to obtain such immense power. But now, Broken Sky Peak had collapsed. Grand Court immediately asked, "Did any monsters rush out from Broken Sky Peak?" "No, I didn't see anything coming out of the Broken Sky Peak." Grand Court slightly said, "Could it be that the monster is already dead?" "Right. Isn't there one more person in Broken Sky Peak? The man who came with the Xian's girl. How is he?" "There's still someone alive, even after entering the Broken Sky Cliff. He's probably long dead." "Where's Xianhu?" The disciple immediately said. "The Xianling Arhats has already caught up, and Elder Xian who has already been severely injured. The profound Jade is still escaping, but he won't be able to escape for long. The only thing is that now that the Broken Sky Peak has collapsed, the various falling stones have all been surrounded by the Xianling Arhats, and they have not attacked again." Grand Court said, "Since we have already caught up, we must live. Xians must have some secret. Especially the Black Jade. You must live." "Understood." Cough, cough. Xian, who continued to cough out blood, his face pale white, as he looked at the surrounding profound jade. In his heart, he said, "Could it be that the heavens are going to destroy my Xian's bloodline? Oh God, what kind of heinous crimes did our Xians commit to punish us like this?" "Ah!" Xianhu burst out with a roar. Xianling Arhats shouted, "Xianhu, stop struggling. You can't escape anymore. Grand Court has decreed that as long as you don't resist, I will spare your life." The 8 Xianling Arhats surrounded Xianhu, and right now, even if he flapped his wings, it would still be difficult for him to escape. The other transformed profound jade had also been trapped. Xianhu's eyes were ice-cold and heartless. He slowly stood up from the ground and sneered. "Grand Court is only unwilling to give up on the super treasure. You want my Xian's super treasure? Ha ha! I was dreaming." All the strength in his body surged as he shouted, "Come!" As soon as he finished, Xianhu fiercely rushed forward. A Xianling Arhats said coldly, "You're courting death." Rushing out, he punched out, his speed much faster than Xianhu's, directly striking his abdomen, causing him to cough out a mouthful of blood as his body exploded outwards. He flew straight towards the Broken Sky Peak. At this moment, the giant boulders from the Broken Sky Peak continued to roll down. Boom, boom, rumble. Every single one of these boulders contained 1,000,000 gene of power. If one was hit by a boulder, it was possible that they would turn into mincemeat. When Xianhu was blasted to the bottom of Broken Sky Cliff, the sound of wind breaking as rocks and stones fell to the ground continuously sounded out in the sky. She slowly raised her head and looked towards the sky. It was also at this time. A figure fell from the sky. Xianhu's eyes tensed up. She wanted to jump away, but due to her severe injuries, her reaction speed became slower. Her body could not hold on. and she could not dodge at all. The one who fell was naturally Long Fei. He also saw a person lying on the ground. Immediately, Long Fei immediately shouted, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Quickly, get out of the way! Get out of the way!" Hearing Long Fei's voice, Xianhu's eyes shook. "It's you." Hatred filled the sky. The killing intent was dense. The reason why she and Xianyu had reached this step was because of Long Fei, because he was a real man. If this man hadn't killed Yi Xiaoluo in Xian City, there wouldn't have been so many things. She attributed all of this onto Long Fei. Xianhu roared out, "I will kill you." When her voice came out, Long Fei was startled. "Damn, it's you, this beautiful nun? Kill me. You want to kill me? Then I—" Long Fei didn't control his body in the slightest. Boom! He heavily landed on the ground. However, he did not smash Xianhu's body. Instead, he supported himself with his hands on the ground, directly pressing Xianhu under him and revealing a mischievous smile. "What did you say just now? You want to kill me?" The distance between the two was only a few centimeters. Face to face, mouth to mouth, Xianhu's eyes spewed out flames of anger and said, "I want to—" "What do you want?" Long Fei immediately gave her a kiss, and in a moment's time, sealed Xianhu's mouth. "Kill, kill me. I'll deal with you first." This was how overbearing he was. Moreover, Xianhu's body was severely injured, and he plummeted to the ground from high up in the sky. Both of his hands fiercely stabbed into the ground, locking Xianhu tightly in place, preventing him from moving even an inch. The current Xian, who could only tremble under Long Fei's body like a little lamb. The moment his mouth was blocked off by Long Fei, Xianhu's body trembled. His eyes popped out in anger, and he held on to Long Fei with both of his hands. How could Long Fei's body be opened so easily? The harder Xianhu struggled, the harder he struggled. "You are aloof? Continue. Are you aloof and cold as ice? Continue. You think I don't? Are you looking down on the common people? Continue. You look down on the men of the world? I'll let you know how formidable a man is." The more prideful a woman was, the more likely she was a man's possessor, and the more likely she was to want to be one. Xianhu was such a cold and aloof woman. She looked down on Long Fei and despised him from the bottom of her heart. This made Long Fei even angrier, and she wanted to ruthlessly deal with him. Woo woo woo. Xianhu was still struggling desperately and was crying nonstop. However, it was all useless. Long Fei didn't even give her a chance to struggle free. It was to desperately crush. Suddenly, Xianhu's eyes turned sinister. He looked at the sky, and his body struggled even more. "Ooh." Long Fei said, "Even if you scream until your throat breaks, it's useless. I'm going to eat you today." Without waiting for Long Fei to finish speaking, a sharp pain pierced through his mouth as his tongue bled from being bitten. With a heavy sound, he asked, "Why are you still biting people? Bite me. I'm going to stab you." Xianhu's mouth relaxed, and he immediately shouted out, "Stone, stone, stone." He was almost going crazy. Long Fei's tongue was still in pain. "What stone is this? And what are stones afraid of?" Xianhu replied, "A huge boulder." Long Fei said, "What's there to be afraid of about such a huge stone? Even a huge rock can't stop me." Long Fei wanted to crush them again. Xianhu said, Can we avoid it first? Can we avoid it first?" No one wanted to die. Even though Xianhu had heavily injured Xianhu and stolen her first kiss from him, she had never thought of dying. Facing the fall of a huge rock in the sky, she still wanted to live. Long Fei said, "Aren't you cold now?" Xianhu said, "Look at the stone on your head." Long Fei tilted his head slightly, making it look completely black, and immediately shouted out, "What the F***K?" Xianhu said, "Dodge." Long Fei wanted to pull his hand out from the ground, but he couldn't pull it out anymore. Long Fei revealed a bitter look and said, "It's over." Xianhu looked at Long Fei's bitter face and immediately became angry. "It's all your fault. It's all because of you. You villainous spirit. It's all your fault." Xianhu went crazy. The look of contempt. Men don't have any good things. It's all because of you men that this world has become like this. Men should all die. Die. Xianhu went crazy. Seeing her act this way, Long Fei's anger rose as well, and he said, "Damn, what about you, a man? He's going to die anyway. What do you mean by peony flower? Even if you die, you can still act like a ghost. It's worth it for me to die in the arms of a beautiful nun like you. Do you want us to continue?" Long Fei revealed an evil smile. Xianhu immediately closed his mouth, his eyes staring straight at Long Fei. A voice came out from his throat. "You dare." Long Fei laughed sinisterly. "There is nothing in this world that I, Long Fei, do not dare to do." Heh. Xianhu's eyes flashed with anger at this time. It was unknown what was on her mind, as both she and Long Fei were about to become minced meat when that huge boulder landed right on the ground. However, she really did not want to die together with Long Fei. He felt as if he had been humiliated, but there was no other way. He was helpless. His eyes were unfocused, and he was lying on the ground, looking at the sky in despair. His mouth relaxed a little. "I hate you." Long Fei laughed. "If I can't make you love me, then letting you hate me isn't bad." Long Fei did not continue to kiss him like a scoundrel, but instead straightened his body and directly protected Xian, whose entire body beneath him. Xian, who was slightly shocked to see Long Fei do such a thing, and said, "What are you planning to do?" Long Fei laughed. "It's such a pity that such a beautiful woman like you has died. This world will lose its color because of the lack of you, so lie well." Xian, whose face was filled with disdain, and said, "You think you can protect me? You think you can block the boulder? With just you?" Even if Long Fei was like this, she still looked down on him, because it was simply impossible for Long Fei to withstand the bombardment of so many huge rocks. Long Fei laughed. "Right, with just me." As soon as he finished speaking, boom, a huge boulder landed and heavily smashed on Long Fei's back. Long Fei's body did not move, not even a little bit, and was completely motionless. Xianhu was slightly taken aback. At this moment, boom, another huge boulder that was 1,000,000 kilograms fell down, heavily smashing on Long Fei's body. It was the same as before, but Long Fei was completely still, firmly protecting Xianhu under his body. Their eyes met. Xianhu was stunned. Boom, boom, rumble, rumble. Huge rocks continuously fell down and superimposed over each other. Long Fei's body directly formed a mountain, pressing Long Fei completely under his body. After a long time, the world turned silent. Broken Sky Peak had completely collapsed, and the stones had all fallen to the ground. In the darkness, Xianhu's eyes glimmered with tears. Long Fei muttered, "Are you crying?" "No." Xianhu immediately denied it and said, I definitely won't cry for a man." Long Fei muttered with a smile, "All right." Xianhu asked why. Long Fei said, "Why what?" Xianhu asked, "Why did you save me?" Long Fei said, "For such a lofty man, to take the responsibility of saving the beauty of the world as his own, the appearance of any beauty would cause me to stand up for him. Saving you is my mission." Xianhu said, "Tell me the truth." Long Fei laughed sinisterly and said, "The truth? You want to hear it?" Xianhu said, "Listen." Long Fei asked, "Are you sure?" Xianhu said, "I'm sure." Long Fei said, "I want to go to bed with you." Xianhu. Long Fei said, "The truth is sometimes a bit too straightforward, making people uncomfortable listening to it, but this is the truth. This is how real I am." Xianhu looked at Long Fei seriously and said, "All right, if we can leave this place alive, I promise you." Long Fei laughed. "You said it yourself." Suddenly, Long Fei's body strength had begun to erupt. Leave alive? Leave alive? To Xianhu, this was an impossibility. Not to mention being pressed down by a mountain of boulders. The Xianling Arhats outside could also kill them 100,000 or so times. There was no hope of leaving this place alive. Right now, she just hoped that Profound Jade would live and leave the last strand of Joss stick in Shin's hands. However, after she finished speaking, The aura on Long Fei's body seemed to have suddenly changed. Crack, kacha. Sounds of breaking could be heard from the pile of boulders. The boulders began to loosen, as if an extremely powerful force was breaking out from the ground. Xianhu looked at Long Fei. Long Fei said with a glowing face, "Just wait to get into bed with me." He slowly stood up. The shoulder resisted all the force and slowly rose up from the bend. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Giant boulders continued to fall down. Xianhu looked at the brown-colored bee scales on Long Fei's body, which he had never seen before, and cried out involuntarily, "Your physical body." This was a type of advanced fleshly body. That's impossible. In Xian City, I can see very clearly that your body is only an ordinary second-grade fleshly body. Xianhu became suspicious. Long Fei's cultivation was still in the Nether Passage realm. Nothing changed. Long Fei slightly said, "People change." Haha. Tao Yi's physical body, the existence of a superhuman body. The toughness of its body was far from enough. What was a million giant boulders? Even if the entire Broken Sky Peak were to press down on his body, his physical body would not be harmed in the slightest. What is a super body? This was it. Xianhu's eyes became wooden. Xianhu should already be dead. She's the only one left now. We can't die anymore. Xianling Arhats moved. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. He quickly landed beside Xianyu and surrounded her. Seeing that her aunt had been buried by the rocks, Xianyu cried bitterly. She rushed towards the rocks in a frenzy, but her path was blocked by the Xianling Arhats. Aunt! Aunt! Xianyu shouted. There was no sound from the pile of boulders. Xianling Arhats said coldly, "She's already dead. Stop resisting and come back with us to the illusory palace." The black jade was still rushing forward. Being grabbed by the Xianling Arhats was like lifting a small chicken. "The two of you, wait here." Finished. The Xianling Arhats all flew to the illusory palace, leaving a few Xian Pavilion disciples to guard the place. Xianyu kept shouting, "Aunt, aunt." After the profound jade was taken away, a few Xian Pavilion disciples that were left behind started to discuss. The women of Xian's are truly more beautiful than the rest. Just that Taoist Master Xian who, tsk, tisk tisk, every time she thought of me, she was unable to sleep at all. One Xian who died, and now an even better quality profound jade has come. This woman is not very old, but she's a top-quality item. If she were to be watched by the two of us in the future, that would truly be... Haha! The two of them began to laugh sinisterly. Xian, whose peerless appearance was also incomparably lofty and cold. Her eyes were filled with ruthlessness and coldness like ice. No man would dare approach her, but she was actually a target of the Xian Pavilion's disciples' fantasies. Because of her coldness and ruthlessness, even more people wanted to conquer her. Coupled with her complexion, it made it so that countless young men were unable to sleep at night. The two of them were one of them. Looking at the pile of boulders, one of the disciples said softly, "Why don't we move the stone away?" And, again, the evil expression on his face was like that of a dirty old man. His eyes gleamed. The two of them looked at each other. Their Adam's apple rolled as they let out a heavy sound. Gudong. All right, if he's still alive, he won't even be able to get close. He's dead. Even if I get smashed into meat paste by a giant rock, I should still be able to get intimate with her, right? Ha! Lust rippled. The two of them did not hesitate as they prepared to move the huge rock away. However, at this moment, the huge boulder pile suddenly rose up and rubble began to fall down. Both of them trembled slightly. What's going on? Not dead yet. That's impossible. I can't possibly live under such circumstances. A disciple said, "Living is better. Even if she is alive, she would still be severely injured. With our cultivations, can she handle it?" Ha! Bro, we've struck gold. The two of them became even more excited and rushed forward as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Rumble. The mountain exploded, and the huge rock was blown apart by a powerful force. Countless huge rocks flew out. Bam! Bam! The two disciples were pressed down by a huge boulder that weighed 1,000,000 pounds, and even the feces on there but were forced out causing them to lose all breath in an instant. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Xian Pavilion Disciple. Do you want to ingest your level? Huh. It can also kill people. Capture. Ding! System prompt. Acquired successfully. Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently at the 3rd level of the underworld. The boulder cracked and Long Fei soared into the sky as if he was born into the world of stone monkeys. Standing at the edge of the deep pit, Long Fei looked at Xian who was inside and stretched out his hand. What are you still lying there for? Can't wait to go to bed with me now? Xian Hu's face flushed red. His eyes fiercely stared at Long Fei. Just a moment ago, she was truly stunned by Long Fei. She had never seen such a powerful body before. That kind of physical strength and powerful physique. It was really fascinating. The temptation of the powerhouse. Xian Hu reacted, his body straightened, and he instantly flew out of the pit, his face reverting back to his cold and aloof expression as he looked around him and said, "You are." Immediately, Xian Hu looked in the direction of the illusory palace and said, "Did what you say just now count as anything?" Long Fei said, "You want to go back on your word?" Xian Hu said, "No, my condition is to leave this place alive. I need to add another condition. If you do that again, I'll do whatever you want after you go to bed." Long Fei asked, "What conditions?" Xian Hu said, "Take Xian Yu and leave together." Long Fei said indifferently, "We are happy to help." Xian Hu said, "I'll lead the way, you follow me." Xian Hu endured the pain, shooting straight to illusory palace. Don't let anything happen to me." Xian Yu had blinded all of the pavilion masters. If he were to fall into their hands, it would definitely be a fate worse than death. Xian Hu was very worried that her speed would reach its limit. He did not care whether Long Fei could keep up. For Long Fei to be able to withstand the bombardment of so many huge rocks, there shouldn't be a problem with his speed. However, she had neglected a question. Long Fei's level. Holy **T. If you run so fast, how can I catch up? Long Fei looked down upon them. His cultivation could not sustain him flying for a long period of time, so he could only run wildly on the ground. Your sister. Long Fei struggled to run wildly on the ground, running and running. Long Fei got lost. The profound jade was taken to the illusory palace. The profound jade was taken to the illusory palace. All of a sudden, those pavilion masters were like wealthy wolves, tigers, and leopards. They wished that they could charge forward and tear the profound jade apart. "Give me back my eyes. You wicked bitch, what's in that box? Hand over the antidote. Faster." Every single one of them stared at Xuan Yu savagely. However, they couldn't see the black jade. They were all blind, but their eyes looked no different from an ordinary person's. Originally, this case was prepared for Yi Shiluo. He destroyed my Xians, so I want him to never see it again, but you all are just like him with incomparable greed. If you let Long Fei go first, I won't let you guys go either. If it turns out like this, it's all because of your greed. How dare you? Grand Court let out a heavy sound, and the pressure from his body came out as if he was raging. Boom! Boom! The mysterious jade was instantly crushed to the ground, and it knelt down, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Many pavilion masters were also incomparable angry. They all knew in their hearts that they couldn't control the greed in their hearts when faced with the enticement of Super Treasure S, but they would never admit it. Xian Yu continued to laugh. Did I say I have a sore spot? The Grand Xian Pavilion's 9 Grand Court S. All of them have now become blind. Ha ha! Yi Shiluo is dead. We have avenged the Xians. Now, you even made the 9 great experts of Xian Pavilion blind. Everyone is destined to remember our Xians. Ha ha! Xian Yu was ready to throw caution to the wind. Xian Hu's death made her lose the thought of living. It was better to die than to live alone. How preposterous! Boom! 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 As several pressuring auras pressed down on her, her cultivation was already not high enough to withstand the crushing pressure. Her face was pale and in incomparable pain, but she was very calm. Sensing the weak body of the profound jade, the Grand Court immediately released the oppressive aura and said, "All of you, stop. Mystical jade, where exactly is your Xian's super treasure?" Even now, he did not give up. Moreover, he believed even more in his belief that the Xians must have a super treasure. That box that blinded them was the best proof. What cultivation realm were they in? A ray of light caused them to become blind. One could imagine how powerful the items in this box were. When the Grand Court asked this question, the great hall became silent again. Xianyu said, "You're still thinking about the super treasure. Do you think I'll give it to you?" Grand Court spoke in a deep voice. "As long as you take out the divine treasure, I can promise you anything, including letting you live." Xianyu said, "Don't worry, you'll never get it. Actually, the thing inside the box was the lotus jade pendant, but he had placed it on Long Fei's body. He had originally wanted Long Fei to keep it in his custody for now, as long as he could deceive Long Fei to the Xian Pavilion. With his aunt there, Long Fei would definitely hand over the jade pendant. Grand Court lost his patience and said solemnly, "Don't challenge my tolerance limit." Xianyu said, "Originally, I wanted to give the thing to Xian Pavilion and use the power of Xian Pavilion to take revenge for my Xians. You all have destroyed the super treasure." Grand Court frowned. He suddenly took a step forward and asked, "What did you say?" Xianyu laughed. "You were the one who ordered the Xianling Arhats to send that man to Broken Sky Cliff, and you were the one who sent the super treasure to the dead end." Super treasure were different from normal spirit artifacts. He was full of spirituality, and once he acknowledged someone as his master, he would be with them for the rest of his life. He died, he was born. What kind of place was the Broken Sky Peak? There would be no place left to live if they went up there. Moreover, now that the Broken Sky Peak had collapsed, the people on top of that were even more dead. The Grand Court shook his head and said, No, it definitely isn't like that. The super treasure is such an important item. How could you possibly place it in the hands of a stranger? Speak." Grand Court suddenly grabbed the black jade by the collar and lifted her into the air, roaring, "Where are you putting this thing? Hand it over to me." The profound jade was lifted into the air, and his entire body was crushed to death by the Grand Court. Xianyu was not afraid as she replied, "It has already disappeared." "Impossible." Boom! The aura on Grand Court suddenly exploded, causing the entire hall to tremble. His eyes were already blind. Although his cultivation would not be affected by much, his reaction would definitely decrease if he could not see with his eyes, and in addition to that, all of the 8 Grand Court were already blind. This way, the Xian Pavilion's power would be reduced by half. Once the divine sect attacked, the Xian Pavilion would not be able to hold them back at all. To maintain his position in the Xian Pavilion, he had to obtain Super Treasuress. His last hope was all on Xianyu. However, Xianyu's words made him unable to control the anger in his heart. "Don't say it, then die." Grand Court immediately grabbed onto Xianyu's throat with force from his 2 fingers. Cough, cough, cough. Xianyu started to cough rapidly as her eyes rolled up. Xianyu rushed out of the hall. "Stop." Xianyu's appearance caused them to be secretly surprised in their hearts. Shouldn't he be dead already? They blocked it at the same time. Grand Court loosened his fingers and said, "Let her in." Xianyu fell down from the sky. Seeing her aunt fly in the hall, her face lit up. "Aunt Yu, are you all right?" Xianyu walked in front of Xianyu and supported her up. "I'm fine. You'll be fine too." "Humph." Grand Court snorted and said, "Are you all right? Neither of you can get away. Xianyu, hurry up and hand over your Xian's super treasure. If you don't hand it over, don't blame us for being impolite. Now that we're all blind, are you satisfied? Xian Pavilion's power will definitely be suppressed by the divine sect. Are you that happy that Xian Pavilion has been destroyed? Get your niece to hand over her things." All of them shouted angrily. Xianyu laughed coldly and said, "You're still thinking about the super treasure at a time like this." Grand Court said, You better hand it over, or else. Do you know how many male disciples there are in Xian Pavilion?" Xianyu's eyes darkened. "What do you want to say?" Grand Court said, "If you dare not hand it over, I will have all of the male disciples in Xian Pavilion take turns with you too. I will make you two beg for death. It was incomparably vicious. The super treasure had already driven him crazy. He couldn't care less. As long as he could get the super treasure, he would be able to do it no matter how vicious he was. Xianhu's eyes turned sinister as he said with hatred, "You want the super treasure, right? You guys can go steal it yourselves." Xianhu said heavily, "Kill them all." However, as his voice fell, Xianhu looked outside the great hall. It was empty, and there was nothing there. Xianhu was confused. This time, her heart sank. "We're finished." She had always thought that Long Fei was following behind her. But who would have thought that Long Fei did not follow him over? She wanted to push Long Fei out of the way. In any case, Long Fei could resist. So as long as she let him stall these pavilion masters, she would think of a way to escape together with Xian Yu. As for Long Fei, that was none of his business. Her hatred for men had never lessened. What Grand Court had just said made her feel even more disgusted with men. However, there was no sign of Long Fei outside the hall. Her heart shivered. Liars, liars, all liars. She felt that Long Fei had lied to her. By this time, Long Fei would definitely be able to escape. If it was her, she too would have escaped. Who would be so foolish as to fight in Xian Pavilion? How would he fight? Xianhu frowned as he protected the profound jade behind him. He looked at Grand Court and said, "The super treasure was taken away by that brat. If you want to obtain the super treasure, then quickly chase after them." Grand Court asked, "Is that kid still alive?" Xianyu also exclaimed, asking, "Big brother Long Fei is still alive?" Xianhu said, "He is still alive, and it is precisely because of him that I am able to survive. If he did not have a super treasure on him, who would be able to withstand a falling boulder weighing 1,000,000 kilograms? The level of this body is definitely caused by the super treasure." Grand Court clenched his fists tightly, revealing an excited expression. The pavilion masters around were also shocked. 1,000,000 gene boulder falling from such a high altitude. The damage it caused is incalculable. To think that he could actually withstand it with his body, he is definitely not ordinary. There must be something on him. It seems like this little slut didn't lie to us. That divine treasure really is on them. Grand Court said with a heavy voice, "Xianling Arhats, listen up. Here." The two Xianling Arhats immediately walked to the entrance of the hall and clasped their fists. Grand Court said, "Was what Xianhu said just now true?" Xianling Arhats said, "It's true that the 1,000,000-kilogram boulder had fallen. If that's the case, there's no chance for him to survive. I don't know the reason why Xianhu was able to survive either." Grand Court immediately said, "Immediately chase them." "Yes, sir." The two Xianling Arhats immediately flew out. Xianhu said, "Grand Court, I'm not lying to you. The super treasure is on him. As long as you can catch him, you can obtain it. Can you let the two of us go now?" "Let you go?" Grand Court laughed coldly and said, "Do you think that's possible? If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have become blind. You two are so talented. Wouldn't it be a pity if I let you go? None of you should even think of leaving the Xian Pavilion. Not only that, I will not let you all die. I will use your bodies to reward the disciples who have contributed to the Xian Pavilion. There are thousands of elites in Xian Pavilion. Think of that scene. Ha. Xian Yu's body was trembling. Xianhu's eyes stared straight at Grand Court and said solemnly, "Ah." He wanted to use force. But this time, the Grand Court did not let Xianhu escape the hall. Boom! He was crushed to the point of lying on the ground, blood spewing out from his mouth like a fountain. And Long Fei, do you know how to get to Illusory Palace? Who are you? Where did you get that trash? Capture him. In an instant, a few Xian Pavilion disciples surrounded Long Fei. Long Fei grinned. "You really want to do this? You guys aren't that high-leveled, so I really don't have much appetite or interest in you guys. You guys are still." Without waiting for Long Fei to speak, a disciple chopped at him. Long Fei did not dodge. Let him hit himself with a single blow. Buzz. The small whirlpool in Long Fei's abdomen slightly moved, like a black hole was engulfing everything. Boom! That disciple's body instantly went soft. His entire body became weak like a shrimp. Long Fei stepped on him and said, "I hate fighting." He stepped on that person's head and fiercely chopped it off. Bam! He directly shattered it. The surrounding disciples' eyes turned vicious. They didn't feel any fear. Instead, they rushed forward at the same time. Long Fei's joints moved, creaking sounds came out, and he muttered, "All right, let me see what kind of special power this body of Towdy has." In that one move just now, he had felt the movement of the many black holes. It seemed to devour everything. Tao, eat the heavens and eat the earth, eat everything. Long Fei felt that the light beam was the power inherited from the elderly Towdy. His pubes had shattered and directly turned into the power of Tao. This was only the strength that Long Fei initially knew. If there was devour, then there would definitely be an explosive burst. It was just that he had not devoured enough, so he was unable to erupt. The three of them rushed in front of Long Fei, with their swords and sabers striking at the same time, slashing at Long Fei's body. Long Fei was not even hurt a single hair on his body, and all of them instantly became weak and sprawled out on the ground. They didn't even have 5 seconds of cultivation before they were sucked dry. Long Fei stepped on them heavily one by one. Boom, boom, boom. As 3 disciples fell, a system notification sounded out. However, their levels were both average. Long Fei couldn't even be bothered to absorb them. Does anyone know how to get to Illusory Palace? Long Fei let out a loud roar, and many people immediately walked out from the surrounding buildings on both sides. One of them was the genius among the young generation of Xian Pavilion, Xian Tian. When Xian Tian saw Long Fei, he immediately spat out a mouthful of anger and said, "Damn trash, are you still alive? This time, I will definitely take your life." He did not go up immediately. With a heavy shout, Xian Tian said, "It's him. Kill him for me." Xian Tian's position in the hearts of the disciples of the younger generation was very high. Once he gave the order, the surrounding people quickly rushed up, surrounding Long Fei directly in the 3rd floor and the 3rd floor outside. Long Fei was also too lazy to continue talking and said, Come, come. All of you come at me together. Save me the time of wasting it." He picked his ears and said, "Come on, what are you doing standing there like a fool?" Boom, rumble. All sorts of powerful techniques struck Long Fei's body from all directions. Long Fei did not dodge at all, regardless of whether it was a blade, sword, palm, fist, or any other kind of secret arts. He did not reject them and allowed them to strike on his body. Rub. Weak explosion. I can't even scratch my body. How boring. Long Fei was overjoyed. The defense of the body of Towdy is really too strong. At the same time, at the bottom of Xian Pavilion, hearing the roars from the Xian Pavilion, Lei Gang's eyes turned sinister. He threw out his fists too, and with a move of his fists, he directly sent 2 disciples who were guarding the mountain gate flying. He moved as fast as he could. Lei Gang said solemnly, "Master, I'm coming to save you. Illusory Palace." Report. That brat called Long Fei has already been surrounded. Grand Court shouted excitedly, "Good. Bring him here." It was also at this time. Another disciple quickly reported, "Grand Court, all the disciples of the Heaven Martial Pavilion are dead." What did you say? What did you say? The hall suddenly became silent. Grand Court was enraged, and everyone stared at the messenger disciple. The disciple's voice also trembled as he repeated, "Tianwu, the senior brotheress of Heaven Martial Pavilion, all have died." Boom! Grand Court's aura exploded and violently shook. The divine sect powerhouse is invading. He suddenly appeared at this time. Could it be that all of this was arranged by the divine sect? Grand Court's eyes stared wide open as his figure moved like a mirage to Xianhu's front and grabbed her up, asking in a heavy tone, "Is it you? What kind of existence was the Heaven Martial Pavilion?" Within the 9 pavilion of Xian Pavilion, the Heaven Martial Pavilion was the strongest battle pavilion. It was also where the elites of the Xian Pavilion resided, but now, yet all of them died? The blow it had dealt to Xian Pavilion was even heavier than blinding the 9 of them. Xianhu said coldly and intentionally, "That's me." She wanted to die. Death was the best release for her right now. Once this matter was over, she might be crawled on by countless men. Thinking of that scene, her heart trembled and she wished that she could immediately die. Now, he hoped to borrow the power of the Grand Court's fury to hack him to death with one palm strike. Grand Court was in incomparable rage. The hair on his temples fluttered without wind, and his fury was like blazing flames. He forcefully lifted Xianhu up as he gnashed his teeth loudly. However, in the end, the Grand Court laughed sinisterly and said, "Do you want to die? I'll let you have your way. I've said it before, I will use your body to reward the Xian Pavilion disciples." Xianhu secretly trembled. It was also at this time that the messenger said, "Grand Court, no, he is not someone from the divine sect." Grand Court frowned. "They're not from the divine sect?" The other pavilion masters immediately asked, "Who could it be? If this world is not the divine sect's people, who would dare to come to the Xian Pavilion and behave atrociously? Is he tired of living? He killed so many disciples of my Xian Pavilion. Is he crazy? How many of them are there?" The divine sect was terrifying. Now that they had become blind, the thing they were most afraid of was the powerhouse from the divine sect. At first, they were very afraid, but now that they heard that it wasn't a powerhouse of the divine sect, their hearts relaxed slightly. Grand Court asked, "Not the divine sect? Could it be the demons from the Hall of Death? How many people are there?" The disciple replied, "He's not from the Hall of Death either. He's here, someone's here." Alone. Everyone was shocked once again. Grand Court asked, "What cultivation realm is it? Is it possible to kill the entire Heaven Martial Pavilion all by itself? This is impossible. Even Powerhouse S of the Celestial Sect wouldn't be able to kill all the disciples of the Celestial Sect." "Exactly. Who is it?" the disciple said. "You have all seen this person before." Grand Court shouted, "Speak." The disciple said, That's right. That's the man that Xianling Arhats imprisoned, the man that Xian City captured, the one called Long Fei." As soon as he finished, Xianhu suddenly raised his eyes. Xianyu was also startled as she rushed to ask, "Who is it?" The disciple replied, "It's that man who entered the Xian City with you. Big Brother Long Fei. It's him. He's not dead yet, haha." He thought that no matter how much the broken sky cliff collapsed, Long Fei would at least be buried in the rubble and wouldn't be able to escape death. He was still alive. Xianyu was extremely happy in her heart. Xianhu was also shocked in his heart. He didn't escape? Did I blame him wrongly? All men in this world are the same. Under these circumstances, he actually didn't run away, and he even killed so many disciples of the Celestial Martial Pavilion. What is he planning to do? Xianhu didn't understand Long Fei at all. Any man in the world would leave under such circumstances. Staying behind meant waiting for death. The Xian Pavilion was too strong. But not only did Long Fei not leave, he even overturned the entire Heaven Martial Pavilion. The Grand Court became even more sinister as he asked, "That brat is only in the Nether Passage realm. Even the worst disciple in the Heaven Martial Pavilion is stronger than him. How could he kill all the disciples of the Heaven Martial Pavilion by himself? The Nether Passage realm is like trash in our Xian Pavilion. I've already carefully examined the talent on his body and the blood vein S. They're extremely ordinary. Furthermore, after receiving one blow from Yi Shilaw, his pubes is already shattered. It is simply impossible for him to have such powerful strength." "Are you sure you didn't see wrongly?" Everyone was puzzled. The Heaven Martial Pavilion was the strongest battle pavilion in the Xian Pavilion. How could it be selected by a trash in the Nether Passage realm? Without waiting for the disciple to speak, Grand Court said lightly, "Super treasure." Everyone's eyes darkened. If it was the super treasure, then he could explain everything. All of the aura on his body rushed toward Xianyu. Grand Court once again walked in front of Xianyu and said, "What you said was true. You gave him the super treasure?" Xianyu was also startled and asked, Is it true?" Xianyu nodded and said, "Yes, I gave it to him." Xianyu said, "You silly girl. Even if you like someone, you can't like them to this extent, right? Does the Xians really have a super treasure?" Xianyu said, "An ancestor of the Xians had accidentally obtained it, but he just did not expect to bring about a fatal disaster to the Xians." "Ha!" The Grand Court suddenly laughed wildly and said, "There really is a super treasure. I didn't believe it at first. A mere ethereal opening trash can actually trample on my Heaven Marshal Pavilion. Seems like this super treasure is very powerful." The elders and pavilion masters in the hall became excited. They knew that as long as they could obtain this super treasure, even if they became blind, the divine sect would not dare to offend them with this news. "Ha ha ha!" Grand Court laughed crazily once again, asking, "Where is Xianling Arhitz?" "Ah, 8 Xianling Arhitz descended from outside the Great Hall at the same time." Grand Court said solemnly, "Capture him alive for me. Remember, you have to live." The 8 Xianling Arhitz shouted in unison, "Understood." Xianhu frowned. The power of the 8 Xianling Arhitz were extraordinary. If they could match the fighting strength of 2 pavilion masters, and the 8 of them went out together, not many people in this world could withstand it. Xianyu was also starting to worry for Long Fei. She secretly clenched her fists and prayed for Long Fei. "Big brother Long Fei, you must take care of yourself." The Grand Court laughed coldly and said, "Don't worry, I will let you two meet later. At that time, I will let you two reminisce properly and let her watch the two of you being humiliated." At this moment, before Xianling Arhitz could fly out, someone walked into the plaza outside the hall and looked at the hall in the distance. Illusory Palace? The one who came was naturally Long Fei. Seeing the 3 big words, Illusory Palace, Long Fei let out a long breath. Having been lost for a long time now, he had finally arrived. "Holy *T F***ck, I've finally arrived." That's him. That's him. It's that kid. Ha ha. You've fallen into a trap. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, so you barged in. Ha! Hearing that it was Long Fei, all the pavilion masters trembled, and they immediately recognized him. Xianhu's expression changed. He did not know why. There was an inexplicable feeling of gratitude. There had been such feelings before, but she had always viewed this feeling as the source of her hatred. She hated this feeling, but now she couldn't control herself. Tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. He was so moved that he wanted to cry. "Fool! Idiot!" Xianhu said in her heart. Suddenly, without caring about her own safety, she rushed out of the hall and shouted, "Run!" Boom! With an explosive sound, the power of the Grand Court directly caused Xianhu to lie flat on the ground as he sneered sinisterly. Can he run now? It was also at this time, when Long Fei saw Xianhu lying flat on the ground, the 8 generations of his ancestors were enraged. F***ck, your grandpa. Did you do this to your father's woman? You're courting death. As soon as Long Fei finished speaking, he quickly rushed forward. However, the level of his cultivation in the Nether Passage realm was not that impressive. His level was too low, and even his flying feet lightly touched the ground. After flying a few meters, he became like a small bird that had just learned how to fly. His movements looked comical. When the pavilion masters at the entrance sensed Long Fei's aura, they all laughed. "Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! What did he just say? Xianhu is his woman? Ha ha! Kid, why don't you take a look at what you are now?" Xianhu saw that Long Fei was getting closer and closer. With blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, he said solemnly, "Quick, go, go, go." When Long Fei said, "my woman," a warm feeling rose in her heart. This feeling was called happiness. No matter what plane it was in, Long Fei's body would always exude an extraordinary charm. He was always able to move a woman's heart, and even an ice mountain would be melted by him. Xianhu's heart was colder than an iceberg. He viewed all the men in the world as his enemy, but now. However, she was worried for Long Fei. Grand Court sneered and said, "Brat, obediently hand over the super treasure. This is your only choice right now. If you don't hand it over." Not waiting for him to finish, Long Fei immediately scolded, "I'll hand over to your 8 generations of ancestors." The muscles at the corner of Grand Court's eyes twitched, and he said solemnly, "Xianling Arhats, first cripple one of his hands." A Xianling Arhats flew out and landed in front of Long Fei. His figure was graceful, like a celestial sovereign. The aura on his body seemed to have crushed Long Fei 10,000 miles away. Grand Court said, "Remember, don't kill him." Xianling Arhats said indifferently, "As you command." With that, the Xianling Arhats disappeared. Long Fei did not stop and rushed towards the Grand Court in large strides. He was still burning with fury. They had completely ignored the Xianling Arhats. Seeing the blood at the corner of Xianhu's mouth, Long Fei was furious. What is he doing? He didn't defend at all? His cultivation is at the underworld realm, but his reaction, he is even inferior to the lowest ranked warrior. And facing the attacks of the Xianling Arhats, he is opening his whole body wide. This is equivalent to courting death. Don't worry, he won't die. Xianling Arhats knows his limits. Ha ha ha! To them, Long Fei was just like an ant. In their eyes, Long Fei was about to be crippled and cry miserably. However, at the beginning, the messenger's body couldn't help but tremble as he replied, His body is extremely strange." Her voice was trembling. At this time, no one noticed what he had said. A messenger disciple simply couldn't attract any attention. In the blink of an eye, boom! With an explosive sound, the Xianling Arhats' palm turned into a blade and accurately slashed onto Long Fei's shoulder. A powerful force exploded outwards like a blade chi. Ha! As expected, he doesn't know anything about defense. Too trashy. Ha ha! Trash is trash. When Xianling Arhats' attack hit, everyone laughed. Only the other disciple did not laugh, but instead revealed a terrified expression. "It's like this again, he could no longer speak. Brat, you've only lost an arm now. You still have a chance now." The Grand Court said proudly, not waiting for him to finish. Plop! The Xianling Arhats that was originally floating in mid-air suddenly dropped down, directly landing in front of the wastrel. Long Fei smiled coldly. "Cripple my arm?" Bam! With one foot, he smashed Xianling Arhats' head to pieces. The entire audience was stunned. There was not a single sound from the huge square. Everyone was stunned. At this moment, ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Xianling Arhats. Do you want to ingest his level? Yes, sir. Long Fei did not hesitate. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, Heartless first pin. The Xianling Arhats were all at the Heartless realm. Just now, he was considered the lowest level existence in Xianling Arhats, but he was similarly very powerful. However, it was shattered by Long Fei's kick. After being stomped on, Long Fei did not stop. His gaze was still fixed on Grand Court, and he said solemnly, "You F***er hit this daddy's woman, and today, even if your ancestors came out, you would still die." Long Fei continued to walk forward. They were still in shock. Just now, what happened? Why did the Xianling Arhats suddenly fall to the ground? What the hell is going on? No one could see it clearly. Of course, Grand Court and the rest were all blind, so it was impossible to see them clearly. Only the disciple's entire body was trembling as he said, it's like this. The senior brother S of the Heaven Marshal Pavilion all died like this. It's like he killed himself. The corners of Grand Court's eyes twitched as he shouted, "Go!" Whoosh! 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 3 Xianling Arhats flew out and surrounded Long Fei. Grand Court ordered, "Attack!" Boom! The pressure of the 3 of them moved at the same time and directly bound Long Fei's body. However, Long Fei was completely unaware. He was not restricted at all. Body of Taudi devoured the heavens and the earth, swallowing everything. The pressure could still be absorbed. It was useless for any of this world's pressure to crush Long Fei, as it had all been swallowed by the many black holes. He couldn't withstand the pressure. The three Xianling Arhats tensed up, weapons. Taking out their swords, the three of them started moving simultaneously. The sword flowers that filled the sky tightly enveloped Long Fei. There was simply no way out. However, Long Fei did not retreat and continued walking forward. The sword moves of the three pierced towards his glabella, his heart, and his abdomen. The moment the three swords touched Long Fei's body, bam, 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 the three of them fell to the ground. His body was unable to control itself, and he fell heavily onto the ground. His body was unable to control itself, and he fell heavily onto the ground. It was like seeing a ghost. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open, but they didn't know what was going on at all. The strangest thing was, the swords of the three people had obviously stabbed into Long Fei's body, but they had failed. There was not a single injury on his body, not even a single wound. Long Fei looked at the three of them who were sprawled on the ground. Bam! 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 The three of them were directly trampled to death. Long Fei also broke through from the first stage of Heartless Realm to the fifth stage of Heartless Realm. Ah! That disciple screamed. His heart seemed to be unable to bear it. His body went limp, and he fell to the ground. That's it. That's it. Anything that comes in contact with him will immediately become useless. Celestial Sect. This is how the senior brother of the Heaven Martial Pavilion died. All sorts of looks were directed at that disciple. At this time, one of the pavilion masters said with a deep voice, "I don't believe it." Boom! His body exploded as he flew out heavily and instantly landed on top of Long Fei's head. Heavenly Long lay pavilion. Boom! Rumble! Countless bolts of lightning appeared in the sky. Within the lightning, a dragon-like monster roared and pressed down on the entire sky. Die, the pavilion master said heavily. Both palms came out at the same time, striking towards Long Fei's head. The power of thunder and lightning, the strength of a heavenly dragon. Fast, ferocious, ruthless. However, Long Fei continued to move forward without any hesitation. He did not even look at the pavilion master above him and completely ignored him. Boom! With an explosion, it crashed onto the top of Long Fei's head. Long Fei's body slightly sank. His body trembled slightly. The force from the top of his head directly rushed into his body. Under normal circumstances, his body would have instantly exploded. This was the strongest attack from the Heavenly Long Lay Pavilion. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to take it. However, Long Fei acted like he was an unharmed person and only trembled slightly, without any other reactions. Before the extremely strong Heavenly Long Lay was able to drill into his body, Long Fei's body was devoured by the many black holes. No damage was caused. That pavilion master who used the previous move did not touch Long Fei's body either. Are you all right? Not a single injury? Is he a ghost? The move just now was the Heavenly Long Lay Pavilion. Xian, who stared dumbstruck at Long Fei, and then asked the profound Jade in a low voice, "Is that super treasure that powerful?" Xian Yu blankly shook her head. I don't know. What was that Lotus Jade pendant? What kind of power did he possess? Xian's had studied it for many years, but could not find anything. It was just like an ordinary jade pendant. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't find the answer to his question in the divine sect, word of this would have leaked out. Now that she saw Long Fei being so berserk, even the profound jade was dumbfounded. Xianhu said slightly, "This might be fate." Again, the pavilion master's attack landed on empty air, and his expression was extremely ugly. No one who had been struck by his Heavenly Long Lay had ever lived, yet Long Fei acted like nothing had happened to them. This was a great humiliation to him. 120,000 points of strength burst forth. Boom, boom, boom. The air exploded. With a flip of the pavilion master's palm, the power of lightning became even more ferocious. Both of his fists struck wildly at the top of Long Fei's head. The top of Long Fei's head was like a cannon. Powerful energy exploded from the top of his head. However, not to mention injuring Long Fei, even a strand of his hair wasn't damaged. In the beginning, Long Fei had slightly trembled, but now that he was walking with the wind, he did not feel any resistance at all. Awesome to the point of being a complete mess. Ah, this old man doesn't believe it. Ah, bang, bang, bang. The crazy bombardment had lived for 70 to 80 years, but he had never been in such a sorry state before. He had truly used all of his strength, but not a single hair was damaged. Huff, huff, huff. The pavilion master gasped. His old face was completely red from exhaustion. Even though he couldn't see, he could clearly feel the aura on Long Fei's body, and there wasn't the slightest bit of change. Even his breathing was the same as it had been at the start. How preposterous! How preposterous! The pavilion master was so angry that his entire body was trembling. Finally, he suddenly dropped down and stood in front of Long Fei. Both his hands suddenly sank and heavily shouted, "Mountains toppling, seas overturning. Rumble, space twisted." The power of this palm strike was even more ferocious and powerful. The expressions of all the pavilion masters changed slightly as they said, "Lord Yun has already used all of his trump cards. Using force at close range, how can he survive in such a situation? No one can withstand such a close distance. Even a huge mountain would be leveled to the ground. If I don't die now, I won't believe it." The heavenly Long Lei pavilion in the Lord Yun was preparing for this very move. No matter how strong the defense is, it can't be stopped, everyone said indifferently. Indeed, the heavenly Long Lei paw technique that Lord Yun had started with was all prepared for this move. He had started with a long-ranged attack and could not hurt Long Fei at all. Long Fei would also be negligent, but he did not believe that a person's defense could do such a sudden burst of energy. However, the corner of Long Fei's mouth suddenly rose slightly. In that instant, Long Fei's body suddenly straightened. "What I want is this move of yours." His body could devour all kinds of attacking powers. However, in a long-ranged attack, he could only devour energy, but could not devour the power from Lord Yun's body. During the time at the Heaven Marshal Pavilion just now, Long Fei had been trying again and again to find out how to use the body of Taudi. They could only rely on touching the body to absorb it. As long as they came into contact with it, regardless of whether it was a blade or a wooden stick, they would frantically absorb the source of their power. He was waiting for the moment the Lord Yun's heart crumbled. Watching him fall, he moved both his fists as a strong force rushed forth. Long Fei did not dodge. He puffed his chest out and blocked Lord Yun's fists. Lord Yun growled, "Die." Both fists struck out, heavily striking Long Fei's chest. This power, at this distance, he was definitely going to die. Everyone looked at Long Fei. The space between Grand Court's eyebrows tightened as his senses surged, enveloping Long Fei's entire body. The moment both palms came into contact with Long Fei laughed softly and said, "Die." Buzz. The strong force drilled into Long Fei's body and was instantly absorbed by the many black holes. At the same time, the many black holes started to spin, frantically absorbing the various powers from the Lord Yun's body. Boom, boom, boom. In the end, Lord Yun knelt down in front of Long Fei. He wanted to stand up, but he did not have the energy and could only pant. The corner of Long Fei's mouth lifted. Looking at Grand Court, he suddenly grabbed the Lord Yun's head with both of his hands, revealing a sinister sneer. Ka! Asterisk die. At the same time, new changes have occurred to the many black holes in Long Fei's body. The many black holes at the pubes' position had changed, and its rotation speed became even faster. The many black holes at the pubes' position had changed, and its rotation speed became even faster. Moreover, sparks of fire shot out from within. This did not happen in the beginning. Even when he absorbed the disciples from the martial pavilion from the day before, there was no change. That's true. When there is absorption, there is always an eruption. I just didn't manage to absorb it to a certain degree just now. Long Fei carefully observed the fire stars within the many black holes. There weren't many, nor did he show signs of erupting. Still not enough? It's actually not enough. Just look at the next one. Long Fei raised his eyes to look at Grand Court and said with a heavy voice, "Next." His voice wasn't loud, but resounded in the air above the square. In the instant Long Fei killed Lord Yin, he received his entire cultivation level. Long Fei's current cultivation level was no longer Heartless Realm, but Profound King Realm that had reached the Pavilion Master. The power of the Profound King shattered the void. As soon as Long Fei's voice came out, all of the Pavilion Masters trembled. Profound King's aura. What? How could it be the power of the realm of the Profound King? Just who is it? Xin City was only in the ethereal opening realm back then. In less than a day, his cultivation had already reached the realm of the Profound King. This is simply impossible. Everyone was shocked. It was also at this time that the Grand Court said with a slightly trembling voice, "This is the power of a super treasure, an extremely strong defense. After absorbing power, they would be able to deal with it immediately." The reason why Xianling Arhats and Lord Yin are kneeling on the ground without being able to say a single word is because all the profound qi in their bodies have been sucked dry and they don't even have any strength left. Grand Court's eyes turned sinister. Although he could not see it, his eyes were locked on a Long Fei. And he said, "Is that so?" Everyone looked at Long Fei. Xian, who also looked at Long Fei. "Isn't it?" No one knew. The corner of Long Fei's mouth drew back, and without further hesitation, he said, "Yes." The idea moved. Looking at its limp son, it continued to mutter nonstop, "Grandma, I want to eat Grandma. I want to eat Grandma." Still weak. He didn't have the slightest bit of strength. However, when he thought about the competition, he more or less recovered a little. He needed food to replenish his strength, and he was recovering very slowly without food. Moreover, once a large amount of energy was consumed, it would require special energy to replenish the milk. But until now, Long Fei still did not know what Nez's grandmother was. Is it milk or something special? Neza had recovered a little, but Long Fei still felt his heart ache when he saw Nez's flabbergasted look. "Endure a little longer. I'll find something for you to eat once I finish here." And then Long Fei asked heavily once again, "Who else?" Boom! As soon as he finished, for Xianling Arhats surrounded him. At the same time, the figure of the other pavilion master disappeared. Lord Yin, the missing pavilion master, was the Poison Pavilion's pavilion master. His sudden disappearance caused everyone to look at Long Fei and reveal a cold smile. "It can be swallowed together? Where's the poison?" "If the Lord Yin's poison touches it, it will result in death. Even a peak profound king stage powerhouse would not be able to withstand it." "Kid, just wait for your death," Xian Hu loudly reminded. "Don't absorb anymore. His attack is poison." Without waiting for Xian Hu to finish speaking, a voice rang in the air. "It's already too late, haha." The moment the first Xianling Arhats died, my poison started. You were already within my poisonous miasma, just that you did not know it yourself. Using poison, the most important thing was the word "in." He had to be insidious and let others not notice him. He had no idea when he would be poisoned. Then again, vicious. No survivors. It was also because of these 2 points that Lord Yin became the pavilion master of the Xian Pavilion. It was a poison that made people ignorant of what was happening. As soon as he finished, the elders and pavilion masters of the Xian Pavilion became even more excited. Until now, Elder Yin has never failed. This kid is just waiting to die. Release the poison as soon as possible. That kid can only absorb it when his body comes into contact with it. As long as he doesn't get too close, he can only continue to absorb the poisonous fog in the air. He'll die soon. Ha! Everyone became excited. Only the Grand Court watched Long Fei carefully. His heart was incomparably excited because he was 100% sure now that Long Fei definitely had a super treasure on him. Poison? Long Fei was startled, his heart becoming tense. Is it delicious? The legend of the Tao Tai on Earth was that it ate everything. However, can you take poison? Long Fei wasn't completely confident in his heart either, but he was already inside the poison aura, and he didn't feel any signs of being poisoned at all. Perhaps this was because the Lord Een hadn't started a harvest yet. Lord Een sneered. You'll know later whether or not it's good to eat. Suddenly, the space between Lord Yin's brows tightened as the power in his sleeves trembled. A red light flashed from his body. Puff, puff, for sounds of blood spurting out. Xianling Arhats spat out a large mouthful of black blood, and at the same time, a stream of pure energy blood floated out from the black blood. There was a little bug moving inside the blood drop, and Lord Een said sinisterly, even if you can absorb energy, it's only from absorbing the power of the four of them. Let's see how strong your body is. Boom! Heavenly blood silkworm poison. Everyone's expression changed drastically. The four Xianling Arhats were lying on the ground with their bodies rotting. They didn't even know how they died. This was extremely poisonous. Using the Xianling Arhats' body to cultivate 4 poisonous insects' bodies, and then using the profound qi that the poisonous insect absorbed to poison them. This way, even if Long Fei could absorb it, he wouldn't be able to do so himself. Every poisoner was incomparably sinister. It was unimaginable. Lord Inu, aren't you too vicious? That's the Xianling Arhats. When did you poison it? Do we also have those poisonous insects on us? Everyone's face was filled with fear, and many of them secretly took a few steps back while trembling in fear. Lord Een laughed sinisterly. Those who achieve great things do not care about small matters. The death of Xianling Arhats will be a type of supreme glory. Her voice was gloomy. The corners of Lord Yin's eyes turned sinister as strands of power began to control the 4 poisonous insects under his 5 fingers. 4 poisonous insects floated around Long Fei. Long Fei looked at the 4 poisonous insects, the poisonous insects that were refined by human beings. Lord Een laughed sinisterly. Don't you have the ability to absorb it? If you have the guts, then eat these 4 poisonous insects. It was very obvious that the 4 poisonous insects possessed an incomparably toxic poison. Let alone eating, even a slight contact would cause them to die, without a doubt. Everyone stared at Long Fei. Eat. The corner of Long Fei's mouth lifted slightly. With a sweep of his hand, he caught the 4 poisonous insects in his hand. It was also at this time. His palms began to rot. What a strong poison. However, he did not stop, though. Raising his head, he swallowed the 4 poisonous insects. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.